I like that you prepared for that.
It is
Oh, yeah.
because it's like this is my life. I'm gonna live it. They're not
We
really
can't
worried
do
about.
more. We just don't
We
have
do,
the time.
and don't get me wrong. It's like being a man of a certain age. And
My name is Renee Myatt. I'm an attorney in private practice in New York City. This podcast is about brothers talking, sharing happening. Inspired by Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem, The Lesson, this podcast explores the transformative power of conversation. I'd first like to thank my guests for being gracious enough to accept my invitation to be here today. Before we get into the conversation, I'm going to have my guests introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about who they are.
My name is Bruce, properly known as Oso. I am a father, 32-year-old man. I am a music engineer, model. I edit. I create clothes. I do pretty much everything around the board. I'm just here today to support and let's have a conversation.
My name is Cameron, 27 years old. Primarily in the healthcare field, working in like administrative work, things like that. Yeah, just here to have a conversation.
I'm Troy Brown. I'm a teacher in the Bronx, high school, English. Here to have a conversation. Looking forward to, shaping some minds in a different way.
what's going on, everybody? This is Tyler. 35. I'm a chef and creator from Manhattan, and just glad to be here. Glad to be part of it. And I want to thank Renee for getting dressed this morning. My wife said I looked like a teacher at Abbott Elementary, so so I'm glad to be here. Happy Sunday, everybody.
All right.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for coming. So we really want to jump right into the conversation. I mean, the energy was so hyped before we got on camera that I really wanted to have that sit for a little bit, but I want to jump into kind of the hard stuff first. So, there's this perception about crime in the black community. So I'd like to know how do you feel about the perception of high crime rates in the black community?
Personally, I think it's a little exaggerated. Like when I was in school studying sociology, we did research and looked at crime data from the 80s coming till now, and crime was pretty consistent. In fact, in the 80s, it was a lot rougher. And I would blame maybe the lack of cameras, but now it's more cameras involved. So now there's more of an attention, an ability to now view and media, put it in the media now. So now it's kind of more, oh my God, it's happening all the time. Oh my God, it's right around us. And then I'll be honest, my friends, they're all on the Citizen app. You have to find the Citizen app. Like we
I had to delete that.
Yeah, I tell all my friends, I'm like, it's good to know what's going on around you, but it's not so good to be crowded with all the negativity. Because we're humans.
I'm not bad at me to cut you off.
Jump in.
What I feel like is that with social media in general, is like you said, it's so available, and we're in that era to where like information is like it's like the Nile River. It's steadily flowing, and I feel that the more like, let's be honest, like crime happens everywhere, in every different community, every shape, every size, and honestly, every tax bracket. There's crime. You can bump shoulders with a dude at Starbucks, and I guarantee you, he's committed more felonies than you could ever imagine. But with that being said, is that everything is an algorithm, and I feel that we're only being, I wouldn't say victimized by that term now or that word now, because of how we allow ourselves to be viewed and how we also view the world. On top of which is that what I mean by that is like you can go through the Citizen app, you're always gonna find something, oh stabbing, oh this, oh that, and then when you're on Instagram, you got, all these tags that are just posting these stuff like all day. Oh, there's a crime here, like coronavirus and why. If you watch that, they're constantly posting something. I follow that one page. The next day, I'm seeing 6 different posts back to back. You know what I mean? So it's like as soon as you open your mind up to that, I'm not saying don't be aware of it, of course, but like if you're like specifically like Citizen app, like that's why I deleted it.
Yeah.
Because now you're addicted to figuring out what's going on everywhere. And it's the same thing with the timeline. And that's all I'm seeing. And what really bothered me and what really messed me up with that too is like, remember around the pandemic, like when like all the George Floyd stuff happened. And then while you're online and you're watching that, every single week was a black dude getting killed by the cops or getting hit by the cops or getting something by the cops or this by the cops, and it's Tennessee and it's Kansas City and it's
Seemed
Ohio,
nothing
it's
was
Dallas.
working, yeah.
So let me ask you though, is the perception accurate?
No.
So the crime rates are not high in the black community.
I think
I don't know if it's any higher than it ever was.
Well, let me ask it perhaps a different way. Who here lives in a black community? Right. Right. So you're saying you live in a black community, Troy, and you're saying that it is exaggerated.
Yeah, I think it's the same like it's always been.
The same like it's always been. But the same like it's always been meaning high?
I would say moderate. Like, my experience with crime is if you are not engaging in crime in any way, shape, or form, chances are it won't touch your life after 23.
At the age 23.
At the age 23. Once you're involved with working community, you have things kind of to live for, essentially.
Okay.
Your viewpoint on risk-taking changes. So with that change in your viewpoint, you almost don't even see it as much unless you're like still partying and going out and putting yourself in environments where crime happens.
So you're a man of a certain age now. You're 20.
31 now.
You're 31. So you're saying you have moved away from the 23-year-old. So you wouldn't see the crime as much.
I don't see it as much.
But that doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah, exactly. In the household with all the nieces and nephews, all the little kids I have in there, they kind of report back and let me know what's happening in the neighborhood, and then they have the Citizens App, so they're always on it, you know.
I think it's also subject to perception.
Yeah, I think it's a perception thing. Like,
So is it because that is the word, perception. Because I was having this really debate, and this is how I came up with this question. Because my paralegal was saying that, no, why are you saying that there's high crime rates in a black community? And I said, it's a perception. That somebody has that perception that crime is high in the black community. Yeah. Absolutely. And that perception is not just whites. Blacks have the same perception. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's why they leave. Yeah.
That's why they leave.
Yeah.
So the perception must be more than a perception if they're leaving.
But I think it's also like who's getting those reportings to gain that perspective, because you're not just going to get that overnight.
Okay, go ahead.
You get what I mean? So if you're saying it's coming from the black community and then it's also like reverse, where are they getting that reports or alerts? And I feel like that's another thing that falls to what I was saying about algorithm, because they're being fed this thing. So the black community is being fed that the black community is going through.
Well, before, because you guys obviously are of a certain age, between 25 and 35, so you can speak about algorithms and AI and that kind of thing. And we're gonna get to that. but there's a reality that crime existed before all of this. Crime was reported before all of this in different ways. So if what you're saying, and correct me, if what you're saying is that, okay, so it's the media that has put up all the numbers, or social media that has put up all these numbers only for the black community? Like they don't put up the numbers for any other communities?
Honestly, I think there's some truth in that, though. Like the level of reporting of crime in our community is definitely exaggerated. Like, we saw it right away with the 24-hour news. Once that transition happened in the early, I think it was early 90s, once we made that transition to 24-hour news, then they had to find ways to fill the program. Fill the program and keep it interesting. One of the first things they aired was the chase. The famous chase with O.J. Simpson. Okay. Yeah, they aired that 20 parts straight through. Kept it going. And from there, they saw that this is the type of entertainment. This is entertainment now. News has turned into entertainment. Right. So they stopped showing the positive news, because for a human mind, positivity doesn't hold.
But here's the thing. In terms of positive, there's been, at least in the media, at least this used to be taught, which is if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
So that's getting on the front page. If somebody's got shot, killed, whatever horrific crime it is going to be front page news. And we can speak about what daily newspapers kind of do that, if not all of them. So and that was, again, before social media. So that was. We can get into this whole, I may be going down some rabbit hole about yellow journalism, but the reality is that there was a time when whatever the sensation was, that was news. So I'm just trying to get an understanding. Because you're saying that folks who live in a black community, if the perception about crime is high, they're leaving.
Well, that's the thing. We don't all leave. Some people stay.
Well, some people stay. Why?
So there's a number of reasons.
Okay.
So you have people that stay because they have no fear and they decide, I'm going to live here, this is where I live. And you have people that stay because they actually believe in the environment. And they're like, no, this is my community.
Okay.
You know, it's not super dangerous. Like some people that actually argue, and like, no, don't say that. Like they get really defensive about it.
Okay.
Because I used to say it all the time, like, oh, nah, this the hood, you know, like it's rough.
Uh-huh.
But then as I got older, I started to realize, wait, no. As a kid, I kind of attracted certain attention. And as a young black man in your environment, when you're young, you really do attract certain attention. Like you want to be the better boy, you want to be the bigger one, you know. So it's like that battle between all the egos, it causes a lot of crime. But then once you,
barrel.
once you pass,
Crabs in the barrel.
crabs in the barrel mentality, literally. And once you start having obligations that supersede that feeling of, you know, elation or that feeling of, you know, excitement that you get from the other people around you when you do certain things or when you act a certain way, you start to really become a man in a way. And that's when you truly start to understand a man takes care of his responsibilities. That's really what it comes down to. If you can do that, then you're seen as important, as manly, as, you know, upper echelon. This is a good dude to be with. You know, that's kind of how it starts. But I feel like that turn happens somewhere around the 24, 25, you know, 26. And a lot of us, unfortunately, are just having kids at that time. So they draw that connection. But I also think a lot of us, you know, you came back from college or you're thinking about, you know, doing the next path in your career. You're thinking about getting a higher position. You know, you want to, you know, you don't want to stay at the same place when you're like 25, 26. You don't want to be doing what you were doing at 19, 20, 21, 22.
Okay. So are we saying that the perception is inaccurate?
Yeah. Wait, what do you guys think? Because I think we're on the side of inaccurate. Like there's a level of,
But
Go ahead.
yeah.
You feel like what?
I feel like it has some accuracy to it.
Okay.
Especially when it got to do with the perception.
Okay.
Feel me? I'm from Brooklyn,
Okay.
from East New York, Brooklyn at that. And like what you said, when you hit a certain age or a certain milestone happen in your life, that's when you start to understand and see stuff a little different. Feel me? I had a child pretty young. I was like 17. But I still didn't get smack in reality till I was 21 when my mom's passed away. Feel me? After my mom's passed away, it's like, oh, snap. Then, shit, I got a son and I got 2 younger siblings. Damn, I know it's other stuff that at that point in time before my mom's passed, like, I got to focus on me, but I'm still seeing people that I always see. But when she passed, it's like, all right, nah. I gotta go get to the bag. Like I gotta figure it out. I don't even got time to mourn or grieve. Like yo, I gotta go do it. But like I said, the perception, I think it is accurate.
it's like a double-edged sword too, because it definitely like, all right, cool. You can sit here and say like my community this, but your environment is what separates your community. Because you can grow up in a black community and it can be the perception of high crime, but then what really is high crime? It could be every village has a troublemaker. It could be the same person stealing an apple. That's the same person that's gonna go into the bodega and like not pay for his sandwich, and the poppy got to chase him down the block. You know what I mean? Or it could be you're living in that area, but everybody you hang out with isn't always gonna spit the right game to you. So you could be hearing like it was like like the level of toxicity that exists in the youth today, like. That YN syndrome is crazy. They all want to go to the club, they want to drink, they want to smoke, they want to do that, and they're just literally chasing the same thing every day. And like that's insane to me. I get it. I mean, it's great, but for at that point in time, but like it's insane to keep continuing to do the same thing. So now if you and like that's just the perception of it, but like if you also have like all right, like how you had friends that were like not forcing you, but the environment that was created around you was something to bring you up, which is literally what every black man wants is to be in a group or a friend group or whatever. We might not always admit it because there's loners and all that too, but you want to be part of something that's accepted or part of a group that's gonna upbring you. Especially if you're an only child. Especially if you like in my perspective of like having a single mom. Like I didn't have like a traditional nuclear family. You know what I mean? And like at the same time, I grew up in an area to where. I mean, we had like our bad apples and all that too. Trust me, every neighborhood does, but like it was eclectic, it was mixed. Like my friends weren't all black. You know what I'm saying? Like some of my friends were white, some of my friends were Italian. My next door neighbors, my best friends were Asian and white. You know what I mean? So there's like their perspective is different. Like for me, what separated me from that was like being able to step out of my neighborhood, which is what I was always taught to do. Explore. learn something, see something. You know, the city was a playground to me at a young age. So it's like if I'm over here and like I got a job on the other side of the city, that's what exposed me to something else. Like, oh, I'm over here. I'm getting money now. I don't have to depend on anything. Like,
Well, that's interesting you say that because the crime, which you kind of you make a distinction, meaning that there's crime in every village, which is true.
right.
So there's a crime in every. So there's violent crime and there's shoplifting,
Exactly.
right? So what you said earlier, Cameron, was that you don't live in a black community. Did you say anymore? Is that what you said? Anymore. And so go ahead.
The big thing I wanted to ask is the word we've been using a lot is community. I really like that word, but growing up, I was very privileged where I grew up in mostly black neighborhood, but like you said, it's diverse. I went to mostly black schools. Like in my high school class, we had a class of like 200. I'd say like 60% were black people, right? So, I feel like I had that sense of community, and I wondered, do you think that sense of community changes our perception of kind of that crime and the high rates of crime? Because like in my perception, especially growing up, I feel like I didn't see that high rates of crime. Like I would have completely disagreed with it, right? And then recently we moved out to Westchester because I still live with my parents. We live up in Putnam County. So it was like 3 years ago now, and there's less of a sense of community up there, and not just because like there's less black people, because obviously there are, but it's also less. You don't interact with your neighbors as much. You don't interact with like there's no community center. There's no like local park that everybody goes to. We play basketball and stuff like that.
I think that, especially in Westchester, because I lived in Westchester, I lived in Yonkers. So I think the sense of community that exists up there was the PTA. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm telling you, like I lived in an area, I lived in Yonkers Heights, which is like all the hills area, like in Northeast, but literally 10 minutes away from Westchester. Exactly what you're talking about. The only time that I've ever seen a flock of people together or like a group of people together was at the public school that existed within my neighborhood. You know what I mean? And like, of course, diverse neighborhood. I mean, at the time that I was getting ready to leave, there was a lot more blacks and Hispanics up there. But Westchester, you got to understand, that's a hub. So everybody that lives up there works in the city. Nobody's really working in their area. So it's like, you're not going to get that as we're coming from a suburban or like, not a suburban, like a urban structure, like, where your community's a lot tighter. You know what I mean? Like block away is like, something close, like the corner store or whatever. It's completely different, Yeah.
So let me understand, Cameron. So in terms of community is a word that you've talked about. So where you live now in Putnam County, would you say there's a perception of, well, it's not a black community, right? So, but is there a perception that there's a high crime rate in that area where you live?
I wouldn't say that. No,
right?
No.
And so you're saying it depends on the community someone lives in.
Not quite. I think I was asking because again, I grew up in the Bronx, so the community I had in the Bronx kind of fueled the idea that I had of kind of disagreeing with that high crime rate perception.
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, do you guys feel like we're still able to make those strong communities nowadays, or do you think like, with social media? I hate blaming everything on social media, but social media, like you said, everything's an echo chamber. So you have your communities online. Do you feel like those in-person communities are still as strong as they were when we were growing up and stuff like that?
That is a good question.
Honestly, my knee-jerk reaction says no. Because I'm experiencing not just kids now, but even adults that struggle with detaching from their phones. We go to a place like I gotta be the one to step forward and say, yo, we're out to eat, everybody phone in the pocket, silent. We chilling, we eating, we gonna communicate. This is where we are, Even like the dinner environment, like it used to be, I'm the youngest of 10. So in my household, when we used to eat dinner, we used to all come together. It's all of us. The youngest of 10. Yeah, massive family. So like I have over 21 nieces and nephews. So it's like my base for people is massive. So it's like when I'm talking and like I I love to bring them together as much as I can get together.
You
in
got
the
like a
room,
militia.
to have a
going.
that was the whole plan. That was my plan to have my own militia too, like my mom. So I'm like I look at it like with all these minds from the youths coming right up to my sisters who are older than me, you know, because I'm the youngest. So hearing all those different opinions, it really made me see that it's like the community is as strong as the people in it. You know, so if the people in it have a proper mindset, then they're gonna find ways to come together. If they're getting confused, because I feel like that's what media does a lot. Like they confuse you and take your mind off of what's important. So if they're getting lost and getting caught up in the different things that are happening, you know, the YN mentality, then it is what it is. You know, like I tease my nieces all the time, like about these expensive jackets and coats and like the moose knuckle coat. You know, all the kids that I see, I'm like, yo, man, you know, for that same $1,500, you could have been like a superstar walking around in a mink jacket, you know, a real mink fur. So I'm like, guys, we have to start thinking like economically and thinking bigger than, you know, just what's being thrown at us.
Well, that's interesting. And let me just interject because since I am a woman of a certain age, you guys keep referring to YM.
YN.
Oh, YN.
It's the term.
It
means
Young nigga. Yeah.
Young what?
Young nigga.
Young nigga.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the term now that's being used because it's like there's a different type of young cat out here nowadays to where
Explain that.
so
Yeah.
like
That's a different generation.
it's a different generation.
You
It's
mean
like
different than you got.
Yeah.
Like younger than you.
when I'm talking like when I say that young nigga, it's a
That's
like
syndrome, like it's a
17,
disease.
19, 18.
I think of it as a disease, and I only say that. I only say
too.
See, my opinion of what a YN and syndrome is what I like to call it because I actually lived in it for a year and a half. And when I say lived in, it was like I worked in nightlife and I managed a bar. And it was a bar lounge, and it was in a specific area. It was uptown. It was a specific area, and then in that area was a lot of young niggas.
What was
So
the
at that
age?
point,
What was the age group?
I mean, these are cats from like 21 to like 25, and like first of all, that's
I'm
why
not
I
even
call
gonna
it.
lie, they not even YN.
But that's why. That's why I call it a syndrome because it doesn't matter. Like you can be 45 and still be a young man. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, and then
Syndrome, I like that.
it is a
I like
syndrome.
that.
What is
I'm
it?
explaining it now. So these are like so. Don't get me wrong. Like one of the balaclavas, like the Nike balaclava that you wear for running when it's cold outside, or sometimes if you're
They
if
wear
you
it in the
engage in winter
summer.
activities,
Yeah.
these cats are wearing it all year round.
In the summer.
All year round with sometimes a hat on top of it and it's see what it is and they're doing that and like don't get me wrong, there's a lot of YNs that, you know, they'll probably watch this podcast and be like, damn, Ty, you gonna talk about me like that? It's like, no, I still love you, bro. I still love you. I just don't love some of the decisions you make. So you know what I'm saying? Like these are the kids that like
So listen, if you guys are enjoying the video, like or subscribe. Love to have you as part of the conversation.
you know, social. This is why I say like social media. That algorithm is like you look on Instagram or whatever, and you see these cats. Like first of all, these could be like entrepreneurs who are actually getting money, or sometimes a scammer who's making it look like he's getting money, but they're wearing all the flashy jewelry. They're dressed in the same. It's like it's a uniform at this point. It's the shiesty. It's the tight Amiri jeans with
Nike Tech,
with or a Nike Tech, or you're wearing some sort of designer sneakers, and you're getting sturdy listening to drill music. Like and you're drinking Don Julio Reposado, right?
I walked past the liquor store the other day. Some little girl like, Don.
Like
you got in a 6th grade uniform.
Exactly. It's a syndrome, and the thing is like, you know, the you refer to it as an echo chamber, right? So like that's what it is. You're hearing it as like Don Julio, shiesty, like all that stuff is real. So you have these kids that are literally walking around. That's their uniform every day. And when I worked at nightlife, they'd be in the club. These are the first cats to start a problem. These are the first cats to be like, dude, like no smoking in the club, and they're like still lighting the blind or whatever, and don't even care. And then there's always like, yo, who you talking to? Like, little dude, you are like, I will fold you like a pretzel. Like, get out of here. But that's the perception from their end, and that it's just like this. It's like YOLO. Like that's that life. I'm gonna be like this forever, and like
I like that you compared it to that.
it is
Oh, yeah.
because it's like this is my life. I'm gonna live it. They're not really worried about.
We just want.
We do, and don't get me wrong. It's like being a man of a certain age in your 30s or in your late 20s or whatever. you understand that, like, especially it all depends on life experience. All depends on perspective. Like, you're not always going to be the same cat at 25 as you are at 35. And I know for a fact I'm not. So, I mean, I still have some tendencies though, but you can't get rid of that. But I know how to carry myself now that I'm like, all right, first of all, I'm married. So it's like, I can't be wilding out in these streets at all. Right. My level of care and execution that goes into my daily life is like way different than how you know, somebody who's not living in those shoes will. And like, not everybody's the same. Like, I had a conversation with one of my boys the other day, and like, I was just like venting about some issues. And I was like, man, you wouldn't understand that, dude. You're not married. And he was like, whoa. Just because I ain't married doesn't mean I ain't been with nobody that's crazy. I was like, hey. I was like, I was like, my wife isn't crazy, bro. But there was something that happened. I was just like, but that's what I'm saying. It's like your experiences, your environment, the people around you, all that affected. Now, with the young nigga syndrome, if like there's a group of these cats, and like the homie that lives in your building is the same way. When you go to work, it's the same cats. In school, everybody's doing that. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's toxic. That's why I call it a syndrome. Like, it's a disease amongst that community because they all want to be there. They all want to be a shiner. They all want to get money. They all want to do that. Cool. But like, you also don't have to do all these wild things to get that or to get there. You know what I mean? So it's like.
So with that being said, that may go back to my initial question. If these are young niggas who want to live in the moment, are they also the ones committing crime?
Oh
Yeah,
definitely.
So that's what the bizarre crime.
That's exactly
So if they're committing crimes in black neighborhoods, is the perception about high crime rates in black neighborhoods accurate?
Right. So I feel like I'm just hogging the conversation.
I'm jumping for a little bit, bro. I got you. I feel like there was always a young nigga.
Yeah, exactly.
At different time periods, they were just titled to different things.
Exactly. With the generation, it changes. You know.
So comparing it to YOLO, which is you only live once, right? Mm-hmm. So how does it compare?
It's a similar mentality. You kind of, you kind of do whatever you want to prop yourself up. You know? You're trying to get your own money. You're trying to be the biggest guy in the room.
And sometimes when you're young, you don't even think that you're gonna hit them certain ages.
Right.
You don't think,
especially living in certain areas. If you was 13 and you had friends that was dying at 11, 12, moving away because their family got money or something, I was like, all right, well, shoot, I might not even make it to 18. So let me just live how I live right now.
It's that finite feel. That's true. Very much.
That's why I said it's like the environment of people around you. Because if you're in a group of friends, and like let's just say for instance, you're one of those young little turk, you're like, all right, cool. Like all of my mans got killed at like 15, 16, and it was like it was gang related. And at that one point, like you're just getting flooded with gang stuff because that's what everybody wants to be is in the gangs. Like it's the hottest thing out right now. To them, they feel like that's what I want to do. Going to school or whatever that. I mean, you have some cats that do go to school and are still gangbanging. But I'm just saying, like, if that's what you're doing and you're on a block and my block is everything, and like you don't even travel, you've never been exposed to anything other than the four blocks that you call your hood. You at the same spot, you're doing the same things every day. And that's why I call it insanity. That's why I call it a syndrome, because you're literally repeating the same process every day, thinking that tomorrow's never gonna be here. But so you're living every day like it's your last. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna spend. I'm like, I just made like. This cat said like, this is what I've seen. So this is coming from me. Like a cat that just hit like $3,500 off a FanDuel, cashed out immediately, goes to the spot, buys 7 bottles of Don Julio. 7 bottles to just 7 bottles. Hear me out. 7 bottles is paying for everything on the spot. And then that's the same cat that you see who comes to my spot the next day and can't pay for his food. So I'm like, and then gets mad at me. But I'm like, bro, like, what's up? This is a business I gotta run. So, and then the best thing that they do is a defense mechanism. Who you talking to? Who you talking to? So they want to get all big. I'm like, security. that's just like it's sickening. Like,
so here's the question then. So I'm presuming the YNs. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are in black neighborhoods.
Yeah. But
I don't know what side of New York, to be honest with you, because
what do you mean?
Again, on social media, I feel like social media has a big part to play in this because us growing up, if you grew up in a messed up neighborhood and you admired to be something or somebody, whether they was getting money the wrong way, it's a drug dealer on the corner. All right, he's getting money. You're actually seeing these people that you're looking up to.
Right.
They're actually giving back to you. Get back to you and your peoples.
Okay.
These kids is on their phones,
Right.
looking at what other people doing in other places.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have nobody to really
Not
look up
just
to.
New York.
You don't know what's real, what's fake, and especially out of New York, I already know a lot of places may look more rural. They might look like they the suburbs or stuff. No, these kids over there wilding too. They doing some stuff over there too.
But you know what's crazy is that the perception of like the OGs on the block that used to be able to feed game to the young minds, regardless of what they were doing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They don't even care no more.
Yeah.
Or like half of them are locked up or dead, realistically. So it's like if you're in that, like that, think about it like this. In a black community, and like this is just 9 times out of 10, you know, if there's like, you know, certain structures or family structures that they don't have, like a man in their life or whatever, it'd be like that OG on the block or that dude that you see every day that just be like, and there's always one. And the crazy thing is, like, sometimes it exists outside of a black community, too.
Right.
Hispanic community, white community, Asian community. There's always one man out there that cares about the kids on the block, that cares about what these kids are doing, because maybe he's been through something similar. But then you have some of them that either are falling into the YN syndrome, too, because they used to be young and getting money, and then they're still getting money, and that's what they want to do.
They
They
see
don't,
the young ones.
then they see the young ones, so it's like competition. I got to show these little whippersnappers what's good. You know?
So as I'm sitting here amongst you guys, am I sitting amongst YNs?
No.
I'm not.
So how is it that you guys, or unless you were you YNs at one point?
Yeah, so I can that's why I speak to the YOLO thing. Like when I had a moment, like it's not even a moment, a nice time of a little, I would call it depression, because the way it was triggered was we had one of our most carefree fraternity brothers die. This was a white dude, but he was like in the fraternity house. I was the brother that walked around and told everybody, yo, we gotta stay on point, we gotta stay on point, we gotta stay on point. You know, we had fun, yeah, but we gotta stay on point. And he was the one that ran around and said the opposite. We gotta have fun, we gotta have fun. He created a little club within our brotherhood called, excuse my language, but the Fuckboy Coalition. And that was like, he was screaming out, fuckboys! Exactly, yeah, bro, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy, bro, it's crazy. He was screaming out, fuckboys! And then they'll all come together and do foolishness. And I'm like, yo, this is ridiculous. Like, this was
the name fit for real,
yeah,
right?
for real. It really does. It really does. This was his last year of life.
Wow.
And through this year of life, I scold him. I don't even know how much. Like to the point where I started to think of him as my quintessential little brother. I'm like, all right. So when he died, it was hard for me, because one of the last things I said to him, literally my final words, was, "Take care of yourself. Be careful. Don't die." Because he was going on a trip. He was going to see his favorite concert, his favorite band at concert. They went to Florida. I knew they were going to do a bunch of drugs. They did, and that's what led to his death. Did a bunch of drugs, saw a cop car. Him and his friend got nervous and jumped off of a bridge. The bridge had no water at the bottom. It was just a bridge. So it's one of the most scariest things that I can even envision. But I see how it was a whole bunch of living on the edge that led to this decision-making process.
Yeah.
So for me, it hit me bad for a second too, because I was like, damn, like if he could just be taken out just like that, randomly, like, you know, hit it, and it was on New Year's. It was random. It was horrible. The whole fraternity was on the floor. The whole school was on the floor because everybody knew him. He was that guy. So that was hard for us. We got through it, but essentially it awakened a YOLO feeling in me, where I was like, yo, man, I'm so uptight. Like I can't keep living life so uptight, because clearly I'm not having no fun. This man had as much fun right to the end, and I feel like he would even have said, like, you know, it was all right. You know, like I don't think he would have felt bad that he died, which made me think, like, if I died today, would I feel okay with what I've accomplished or what I've done, or say I had enough fun? And I'm like, nah. Okay. So I started changing the way I live life. Started having more fun, going more places, leaving the country, you know, doing all types of things. So it was
that was your YOLO.
That was my YOLO, you know, like so it wasn't
Okay.
exactly being a YN and wilding on the streets,
Okay.
but it was more like living to like extreme risk
Yeah.
and doing a lot of things I wouldn't.
Everything
normally
in good
do.
taste. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
you know. So I feel like everybody kind of deal with these traumas differently. But if I was home, because I was at college when this happened.
Okay. Where'd you
If
go
I
to
was,
college?
I went to Hartwick College,
Hartwick.
up in Hartwick,
Okay.
up in Oneonta.
Okay.
Sounds like Harvard, right?
Uh-huh.
I like, gets everybody. I'm like, yeah, I let them stick with it for a little bit. And I'm like, all right, it's Hartwick, guys. I'm corrected. So essentially, we're up in Oneonta. It's a small town, you know. City of the Hills is what they call it. And out there, it kind of made me have that type of fun. But if I was home and I didn't like getting phone calls from home when I was in college. Like every time I got a phone call from home, it was somebody dying, family member dying, family member sick. Like college was hard for me. It was 4 or 5, I think 5 deaths, 5 deaths and 3 sicknesses, 3 cancer diagnoses. My father and mother. So it was like, it was a lot. I was like, man, this ain't life. I was like, this is horrible. You know, like being out here
at the same time.
Huh?
So, and you wasn't home at the same time.
So it's like I didn't almost like I felt like what could I do? You know, I'm out here. There's nothing I can do for the family. There's nothing to help anybody. Nothing.
And they wouldn't want you to either. They'd be like,
yeah,
worry about your education.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I called mom. I was like, no, just focus up there. Do what you got to do. So it was really depressing and very lonely. You know. So in that respect, you deal with things how you deal with it. So that's why I say like even to all the young niggas out there, like I get it. Like, I understand the circumstances.
Like you don't turn into a young nigga overnight.
Yeah, like, it's a build up.
But how do you elevate?
Promise.
How do you elevate?
So
I mean,
it's perception.
It's life, it's perception. You have a lot of cats like, all right, cool. Like one thing everybody wants to do is like become a rapper. All right, cool, do that, but like do it the right way. Like don't put out albums and keep hustling. Like don't do that because you're just putting yourself in a worse situation. Yeah, and don't snitch on yourself on the radio also. 90% of y'all are doing at this point.
Exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Here's a question: Does every young black man want to be celebrity, sports figure, what is that?
But that's the perception.
That's the perception that the only way you get out the hood is if you balling or putting out or rapping. You know what I mean? And like that's that old perception too. I mean, don't get me wrong. With like you mentioned that earlier is like because we're all men of a certain age. Like were we young niggas at one point in time? I feel like every generation has that aspect of their adolescence. Like I said, everything in good taste. Like I wild out, everything in good taste.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say too much because my mom's in the back. But everything in good taste. You know what I mean? And when I went to college, I had my fun. Everything in good taste. I didn't allow myself to get to a certain point to where they looking at me like, oh, that's that fool right there. Like, nah.
But there's a difference between that fool right there. I mean, kids are mischievous. I mean, that happens.
Well, true.
We're talking, as I understand it, YN is like looking for a fight, looking to be engaged with somebody. He's stepping to you and you say, I can bend them like a pretzel, right? But if that's the case, then did somebody want to be a gangster?
Everybody wants to be macho. It's not really necessarily a gangster because if we was in the jungle or in the wild, it's like who's the toughest lion?
That's why I said it can't happen overnight.
Like, I'm still a man. I gotta show my muscles. I gotta flex a little bit.
Yeah.
But they going a little too.
Yeah.
And so if we talk about, you're saying obviously social media has magnified it.
Right. But like I said, it doesn't happen overnight. Like there's a mixture of things that go into that for somebody to act like that. It could be trauma, it could be your environment, it could be the fact that toxic masculinity plays a major part in it as well. You know? So it's like you put all those together and like it could be a young black dude that wants to be on a young nigga syndrome, or it could be a white kid that just, he's bugging out with however way he feels.
Just go through something
Or
and then
exactly.
tomorrow, I just lost my dad or my grandma just died. She was the one taking care of me. Now it's like, I don't know what else to turn out. I'm just mad. Anybody or anything that happens, I'm just acting accordingly.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned something, Tyler, about the OGs on the block and that sort of thing. Are there elders or OGs that you guys look up to and like, or that you can go and talk to? Like, who's the elder that you see?
That's right. Same.
I'll be like,
So that's my question.
4 years away from you, kid.
Yeah.
That's my question is, us here, we're getting to the age where we're what we would call old heads.
Old heads.
Oh my
gosh. OGs now, the big bros.
Because I'm just turned 27, so I'm slowly getting there.
Yeah.
I got my moments, but how do you personify that unk status, I guess.
I own it.
Me too, bro. I embrace it. What?
You know what's so funny? You mentioned that. What's so funny is that I used to run a kitchen not too long ago, and like majority of my staff were young black kids, like 20s, early 20s. I think the youngest person I had working for me was like 18, little Mexican cat from Brooklyn. But it's like at this point right now, the type of kids that we have, like they're all into the same stuff. They all listen to the same music. So it's basically my whole I loved having a complete kitchen of people of color. I was like, I loved it. And like the perception, like it will come on to where like, all right, I'm playing music on the kitchen. It was like, oh, what's this old ass music chef listening to? And I'm like, it's Sade. I was like, oh, you in love? Why you playing that? Put something else on, like. And I'm like, yo, and like, don't get me wrong, it's like, you know, I have an eclectic music collection, so I listen to a lot of stuff. But if I'm putting on something like '90s R&B or something older, because like, first of all, in my kitchen, I was like, there's no hip hop till like 10 o'clock if it's in the morning, like at least. Because I don't want to just wake up in the morning and just go. I don't need that. So it's like either I'm playing like salsa or like R&B music or something like that, just different. You're like, Chef, why you got this old ass shit playing, man? I can't get jiggy with. I'm like, jiggy with this. I said, you calling me old, but you quoting Will Smith, like. That's just, you know, I own it too, because at the end of the day, like, I know what generation I come from. I love it because it's the best. Like, that early 90s, like, that 90s baby thing is never going to go away because we literally built such a monument for so many different things in Black culture, period.
Well, that's actually, that's beautiful. Yeah. The question I have is, who do you go to?
Oh, okay. So
who do you go to? Like, and I say that, let me tell you why. Because obviously you are, and I'm going to use your words, you're spitting knowledge, right? So to younger folks, right? But you got to get it from somewhere. Only because I imagine, and we'll get to this as well, you can't read every book. No. But you got to read. Because you got to be able to impart knowledge to somebody that you've gotten from someplace. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a person, and we'll get into books in a second, but who is the elder that you go to when you need to work some stuff out, talk about it, like, what should I do? I mean, who do you go to? Oh, it doesn't have to be a guy.
Yeah, I have a few. Yeah. So for me, when I was growing up, like that person always shifted, and the like moms, pops, that's a term that I've used for way more than just my mother and father. Like I've called about maybe like 6 women in my life moms. And like pops, that title gets thrown at any man that holds it down for me. That's how I look at it.
Meaning what? Hold it down.
So in the way you're describing, whether it's through a conversation, whether it's through a meal, the way how I kind of found a lot of my people to speak to, I had well choice of women growing up. When I was in middle school, right into high school, I always had a girlfriend. And when I was with any girlfriend, I was always attached to their family as well. I would go over there for dinners, I would hang out.
You a good one.
Oh yeah, that's
real good one.
All the mothers loved me. Like, they was like, oh, nah, you can stay with him forever. They loved me. So I used to get, and for me it was more like, I look back now and I realize now, a lot of it was out of survival, poverty. Because when I went home, there was no food cooking. Nothing to eat. So I'm like, if I can come to your crib and chill for a little bit, hang out at dinner home, that'll help me for the night. And I'm good for the night too. But then also, I can get some brownie points in with you, with your folks and stuff. So I'm like, this could ultimately make our whole situation better, So I was always like super cerebral about how I'm gonna get the next thing, whether it's the next meal, the next piece of knowledge.
Okay.
So it was girlfriend's father. Aside from that, in church, I was forced to go to church like many of us when I was young growing up. And in church, that environment, because I was forced, I was more resilient. And that's why I preach to everybody. Don't force your kids to go to church because they're not going to get what they're supposed to get out of it. Like I was forced, and in that force, there were other people in church who felt the same force. And there was like a younger group of they were like probably 21 to 28. Those guys, they kind of like led the youths because we saw them going around and talking to the girls and doing different things and moving around. So I was like, all right, those dudes, they cool. And every now and then you can catch them for a conversation. And they were in Brooklyn. This was in the 90s, late 90s. So this was like their older brothers went through the crazy 80s of the Brooklyn, shooting and stabbing them. And back then the gangs was flying, there were Bloods and Crips, everything was crazy. So for them, some of them was gang affiliated. And they would tell us like, nah, don't do that. Like, don't get involved. It's not worth it.
But who would you call today? Like, which elder would you call today? Like, we left here and you're saying, listen, and it doesn't have to be a depressing thing. Listen, I was involved in this podcast, great conversation. Yeah. Who is it that you'd want to tell that to? What elder?
My godfather.
Does he know? Yeah. Does he know that?
Yeah. Oh, he brags about it too. Okay. He's like, yeah, I was on the phone actually on my way over here, and I was like, hey, I was like, I'm about to do this podcast. He's like, yeah, why don't you go up there and spit all that knowledge out of game? That's how he talks. He has like this wild drawl. Yeah, he's like, yo, when you get up there, let him know you better represent. Let him know I gave you all that. All right.
Based on that, we gotta know his name.
Lonnie. That is my aunt. That's her husband. They've been together for like almost 40 years now. 40 years actually. They just made the anniversary. Nice. And when like this dude, right, is like that, he's everything to me. Like he walked me down the aisle when I got married. Yeah, because that's my security. I said, you would watch my back, because you know what I mean? And he was right there, and he's always gonna be there. And like he let me know that. What's crazy to him is like we were talking about the structures, like family structures and community and stuff like that. What I will say that there's two communities that I grew up in that gave me so much love when I was young. And one thing I'll say is the neighborhood I grew up in. And my neighborhood was very eclectic. Like nobody, not one person was the same for real. And that's Tribeca, that's downtown in Manhattan. You know what I mean? If you think about Tribeca, like my family moved out there in like the early 70s. There was nothing down there. You get what I'm saying? So what was initially supposed to be luxury housing turned into affordable housing just to get people into the building. You know, my grandmother moved in there like in the early 70s or whatever. So if you look, my neighborhood goes from Black, Hispanic, Irish, Asian, it doesn't matter, you name it, we had everybody there. Then the celebrities came down there because it's barren, so you couldn't find nobody, right? That community, like everybody was close knit. Let something happen, everybody's ganging up. You know what I mean? We used to watch everybody's kids go to school. Like my aunt lived in a building across the street. You know, me, my mom, we lived around the corner from my grandmother, 6 people in the house. You know what I mean? That right there was that solid community. Now, did I have a father growing up? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? You know, my dad was very estranged from me. With that being said, my godfather was the one that took immediate interest in me. And I say this from, you know, my mom and his close relationship to like how I was brought up. And there'll be times to where like even doing something foolish or getting in trouble, she's like, I'm gonna call Lonnie right now. And then I'll just get scared. Like I already know, cause soon, well, what are you over there doing to your mother, man? Like that voice right there, it used to be like, oh, shook. But now it's like, it's something that warms me because like, it's in the head now. That's something that warms me. And like I said, that's the only man I'll ever love in my life. Like for real, 100%. Like, I love my brothers. I love my friends and all that, but like that dude is like completely different. The thing is, I can go to him for anything. I can tell him anything, and he's always willing to give me game. If I don't need it, he'll give it to me. And the thing is, because like he came up the same way too. He came up in the city. You know, his pops wasn't around. You know, he had to do what he had to do. He joined the military, and you know, built so much success upon his name. So it's like, why not? You know. Yeah.
Who would you call?
I would probably call my mom's. Yeah. So, the person I go to for everything is mom. Okay. You know, she's the superwoman in my life. You know, she can do no wrong. She does everything. She's who I go to for advice, for just to celebrate and stuff like that.
Wonderful. What's your mother's name?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Bruce?
I don't know. Since I got a certain age, I don't know. I'm like you.
Yeah.
This was good. Plus, my mom not here no more, so it would have been my mom's, but she not here, so
Still talking to her though.
yeah. See, I wish I had a voice on I used to have her voice on like voice.
Yeah.
I used to try to keep it for mad long, but then I lost that phone. I was like, nah. But yeah, I don't really. I talk to myself. It make me see.
Yeah.
Well, we touched a little bit, I think. We can come to it more clearly in terms of the housing market. Mm-hmm. So the question I have is whether or not or how has the housing market impacted you? Like, what's your rental experience? And I know Tyler couldn't wait to get to this topic.
Oh, man.
You want to start us off?
So, I think New York City, or more so like I don't want to say the tri-state area, because Connecticut, we already know, is expensive. But New York is going through such a crisis right now, it's ridiculous. So like what you would see for like a 1-bedroom apartment is basically like the equivalent of like a room, you know what I mean?
Give us some idea in terms of prices. What are we talking about?
So I say that just because like I'm always looking at real estate, and that just comes from just me being, you know, that's one of my fixations. Like it's a hobby I enjoy, but then also it's you know, I was looking for a long time. You know, when I was at home, I was constantly trying to figure out different areas to move out and, you know, find situations. Not all of them were the best situation, of course, just because of where things were being priced at and area too. And I think that especially in New York City, you know, area is everything, location is everything, number one. And you're paying more for location than you are for like livelihood. Yeah, you get a quality of life for real. So like, you know, like for instance, like what was it like during the 2010s, apartment in Brooklyn could probably cost you about like maybe like $1,200-$1,300, and now in that for like a 1 bedroom or a studio realistically, and then now you see like those same apartments are going for like $3,500, $4,000.
Is that in Manhattan?
This is in Brooklyn.
That's in Brooklyn.
Yeah. So all right.
Imagine Manhattan.
So yeah. See, my thing is how I gauge. All right. So how I gauge or how I look at, you know, the housing crisis in New York City as a whole is I always think of Brooklyn first. I always think of Brooklyn and I always think of Lower Manhattan first.
Why?
Because it was ground zero for gentrification.
Okay.
Tell me I'm not wrong. I mean, you'll barely find like any real articles on it, or there's certain things like I remember like the Tribeca Post, I forget, whatever that newspaper that was in my neighborhood growing up, that they posted about gentrification because after 9/11, you know, when the housing market, like its stuff went down, especially in that area to where it was like low price, a lot of people moved in and like a lot of young people moved in and like took over all these buildings, and then the market just went up crazy. And I feel like there was a post because right in between Reed and Duane Street, which is like right off Greenwich, like between it's a small little area in Tribeca. I remember this day because I remember watching the kid that did it, and he's a really good artist. I'm not gonna put his name out there because, you know, he does what he does and he's good at it. He put out, I think it was something like "Don't come to Tribeca" or something like that. Because when I say that, you know, that community back then was so tight that like we kind of was like, this is our home, this is what we love, this is it. And when we started getting, even people that looked like us just started coming in and just taking up all these things and raising that market. And not only that, they kind of just destroyed the neighborhood a little bit. Because then once apartments start changing, restaurants start changing, small businesses cease to exist, you know, Whole Foods opens up down the block. These things become a thing of the past really, really quick. So like witnessing that at that time, I was like, that was ground zero for that. So like Tribeca was definitely one of those hits, but like Brooklyn was very big. I feel like it was like a gold rush of like kids from like the Midwest, the down south, or even from overseas coming to New York, and they were coming to Brooklyn first. Of course, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Biggie, Jay-Z. I want to live out there. You're moving into Williamsburg, Flatbush. You know what I mean? Like you walk down Franklin Avenue right now, you're not seeing, you know, a bunch of black people. You go to Bed-Stuy, you're not seeing a lot of black spots. You're seeing white smoke.
It's Jewish, and then there's West Indian.
Then there's West, yeah, but they're farly separated. But like, think of like Williamsburg for a minute. If you're like on Broadway or like North 3rd Street or like Bedford, Metropolitan down there, like it's not the same. Yeah.
Over here was the projects, and then it was
exactly
white people here, the Spanish people here.
Right. So you got these people.
So that, no, because that has sparked so many questions based on what you're talking about. But one of them is, so you saying you can't afford?
Oh hell.
You can't afford it because the rents are just astronomical.
Right, but that's why I said it started then. And like think about it now, like over time it just keeps going up. So now Brooklyn's way expensive. Manhattan,
Well, no, I mean, I have a colleague of mine, his daughter and her fiance were trying to get an apartment. This is a rental in Manhattan. 1 bedroom, $6,500.
Jesus Christ.
And it was a bidding war
For
the apartment. You have to rent it, and they lost the bidding war.
I think that's a sin.
Probably.
Yes.
That's a sin. I don't think you should be bidding against anybody to rent something. That's like you going to Hertz and you need to get a car to travel from here. It's like 45. Yeah, like, I'm not doing that.
So as a result of the high prices, is that why you now live in Jersey?
100%. So I looked in Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Harlem, and like, don't get me wrong, like you know, beautiful spots. You can find something, but then when you add everything else into it, it's like, in one way or another, New York's gonna suck your pockets dry. I had a car at like 21. So it's like I have a car in New York. Like my friends would be like, "Why do you have a car in New York City?" I was like, "Bro, first of all, I live all the way in the Bronx, and like I work in Manhattan. I hated taking public transportation. Honestly, you can ask my mother. I had a horrible experience with public transportation like after 9/11. Like I could not get back on the trains. You call it PD? I think it was part of my PTSD, but it was just like I just do not feel comfortable on the train. Like being underground and like feeling like there's only but so many ways to get out. Regardless of what happens, that's just something I can't fly with. So I would drive everywhere. Like at the end of the day, I had like a 2006 Subaru Outback. It cost me $40 to fill up my gas tank before the price ranges went up. Going back, I was good paying $60 for gas every 2 weeks to travel back and forth. The only thing that sucked was finding parking. You know what I mean? And New York City got a lot of money from me. So a lot of money from me.
Well, now with congestion pricing.
Forget about it. Living in Jersey, like me, no, my wife would drive into the city. Okay. Like no, at all. So like I choose not to do that. You add that on, that's all. It keeps sucking your money out. So like even if I was willing to pay like $2,700 or however way for a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, I still just wouldn't do it because I'm not gonna have parking. I can just pull my car in. When it snows out there, they're just gonna leave my car up. They're not gonna care about it. You leave it subject to vandalism. You leave it subject to a whole bunch of other things too. So it's like and I feel like coming from even living in the Bronx to where Co-op City, like if you don't have a parking pass in that garage, you're circling the block for 5-6 hours. Me and my wife moved to Yonkers. I was like, perfect. We had a 1-bedroom. We was paying $1,275 a month for everything included. Her pops had grandfathered us into that spot, and it was like an old building. And like, all right, cool, you're paying that little bit, but then at one point it was completely beautiful and fine. My apartment was great. After a while, it just started deteriorating, and that's the thing too. Was like, you're paying a lot of money, and don't get me wrong, sometimes you're getting good quality with these apartments, but you got to think that majority of these buildings going up, one, are cookie cutter because they're using the same materials, the same this. Exactly. And they'll cut on labor and resources and all that to still create a luxury style apartment, but you're still going to have maintenance coming to you, coming to see you every other month because something's broken. Exactly. Same thing happens with like the housing market in other states. There's cookie cutter spots all over Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, however way you want to put it. But getting to where I was at, my apartment started like deteriorating, so I had to find something quick. And like a lot of places that you're paying these low income rates, the buildings aren't maintained. The tenant, the landlords do not take the best, care of these apartments, and they don't really care to. And that's another thing too, like gentrification. A lot of these kids were coming into New York paying $1,600 for like a 1-bedroom apartment, but then have crappy work done. You know what I mean? So it's still like that now. So like moving to Jersey for me, I did my research. We was looking for everything. My wife's from Jersey, so we were planning this for however long, and then being able to find something that's like a bang for the buck, like that's my thing right now. Like,
I got you. So I think Cameron, you've had some housing experiences, right?
Yeah, a little bit. But I wanted to say something you said before we started recording. New York makes you feel like you make no money.
Definitely do.
Because not only is it expensive to like just rent anything, especially in the city, restaurants, like just food, just anything. It's just like double the price you'd find
I was pissed
up in Yonkers.
I was pissed this morning. I got my son a sandwich and myself. That was $20.
Yeah, it's like
for 2 sandwiches.
$10 should be good for 2 sandwiches.
Yo,
$20.
$5, it should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you were looking to get a co-op. You're looking to buy. Yeah. You weren't looking to rent.
So my sister, she's in college. So she's in college in New Rochelle. The trip from my parents' house is about an hour, if traffic's good. So she wanted to live a little bit closer. So my parents were like, let's put all our money together. We'll try and buy something, a co-op or like an apartment or something in Yonkers, New Rochelle. And we're still looking like anything. There's not a lot in our price range. It's either way too expensive for something that's nice for like a 2-bedroom, or it's like in like a really old building. And
do you work in the city too?
So I used to. I literally just moved out the city. I used to work in the city over by 53rd Street, but now I work in Harrison. But I was driving every day down to the city. Yeah. Because up by me, the only public transportation is Metro North.
I'm not saying Metro, right?
So I gotta.
I gotta hope it's on time.
Yeah.
Snows.
Catch it right on time. Can't
This
be late.
is.
I gotta
wait
wait
another hour.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then it's even that I have to drive 25 minutes to the nearest train station.
Mm.
So
Still 25-minute drive.
yeah,
might as well.
I might as well just drive.
See, but that's a thing that sucks.
Mhm.
You might be living somewhere far out the city,
Everything is
but in order to make enough money to provide for where you live, you have to work in the city. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That's the difference too.
Work over there, you probably won't.
Right. So the thing about like what I was saying earlier, living in Brooklyn, you're paying $2,400 for a room. The only way you paying for that is to have to work into the city. You know what I'm saying? So you can't even have like a feasible commute where you're able to save money and try to get up out of a certain situation.
So does that mean that one has to look to increase your income?
Yes.
Yeah, in New
Right?
York City, yeah.
Right, because you know this it's always the famous saying, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right? But I may take it a step further.
Right.
There was this show that was on many years ago was called How to Make It in America.
I remember that show. Yeah.
So the question becomes, you're impacted by housing, you're impacted by a lot of things, right? But you're still here. So how do you make it? How do you make it? Does that mean you have to find jobs that pay more money?
Exactly. Yeah.
And how do you do that? I'm just talking. So how do you do
It's
that?
taking your mind out of survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Survival mode, and all right, so you got it. Like I say it because that's like literally what it is. Like
Okay.
if you're living in New York City every single day, it's survival mode. If you're not making like $10 million something dollars, however way a year, like you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
Mean average to actually live comfortable in New York, like $168,000 or something like that, and like majority of the people that live in the city don't make that money like at all. Minimum wage is just now getting to a point that's quote unquote livable, but it really isn't. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like I say, like even being a chef, I wasn't making the money that I should be making up until about a year ago.
Okay.
And that's really hard because imagine if like, I had help throughout the years, but imagine if I was living on my own or doing this or didn't have a roommate or doing that, I'd be struggling.
Right.
And so there's so many different factors that pin on like that housing and that quality of life that like it makes it hard to do it in New York.
And that's the other thing, the quality of life. People don't want to go out their buildings smelling pee or even if you're in a nice, because even in Greenwich Village, they always complaining because it's people doing drugs in their basements or on the sides in their backyards or something. People don't want to pay for stuff like that. But it's like, all right, you live in the city, you got no choice. So.
Yeah, or you work all the way in Far Rockaway and you work in Manhattan and you late every day because the A train, there's a delay here, delay there.
Yeah, now there's shuttle buses. Now they're doing work on the A train.
Yeah, but every bus line is packed because people trying to figure out another way to get around.
Everybody's avoiding congestion. Yeah.
All right, so that is interesting, a nice segue into my next question, because you guys are just you're just flowing here very nicely. So the question becomes, we were talking about the YNs for a moment, and the question becomes that I have for you guys is what do you think about your future, and the future of children today? Right? And then here's an even deeper question. What advice would you give your younger self?
Well, I try to give my younger self advice every day, and my younger self seems to just
Leave me on hold.
exactly what you said. Okay? 20 minutes later, your mom called. Yeah, you gotta get your son. I'm throwing through the window. Oh snap! What's going on? Yeah. So yeah, I speak to my younger self all the time.
So, but what is the future
Give me
like?
like 5 more years, then my answer would be different.
Well, we only have now. So what does the future look like? What do you think about your future?
I think for my future, my future is looking bright. And for the youths coming up, I think theirs are too.
All right, let's talk about yours for a moment.
For me now,
Why is it looking bright?
a lot of things that one could say were like things that kind of held us back, like even as Black folks, is a lot of changes in society that are allowing us to kind of progress, to move forward. So for me per se, like when I got out of college, like you remember when I got out of college, I came here, I worked here for a little bit, struggling to find the next law job, and found the next one, jumped on the next paralegal job, and I was there for about 2 years. When I left there is when I decided I either wanted to teach or go right into law school. So I left there with that intention, like, all right, study time, lock in. Now COVID hit. As COVID hit, then I started hearing all the insight and all the greatness of coming into teaching. Like, they were like giving stipends and offering all these different things. So I'm like, you know what? This actually don't sound too bad. And I had a friend who was already a teacher that's been coming to the house all the time, telling she was like my sister's age, a little older, and she'd always tell them like, yo, guys, the rate, like the salary is up. It's going up. The teacher's going up. It's going up. You come in, you start at 65. Like, what y'all doing? When she said that, I'm working at 45. I'm getting 45 at the paralegal job. I'm like, kind of like that 65 idea. And I had just tutored my 2 little cousins. One of them, he got into Townsend Harris, which was the #1, I don't know if it still is, but it's the #1 high school in Queens. The other one, he got into Yale. So I was like, maybe this teaching thing is something that I can do, Okay. And honestly, it never felt hard for me. Like, it was something that always came easy, natural, 1-2. So I'm like, I feel like I'm in my natural space.
So do you see yourself in terms of a future? Because you've been teaching how long now?
4 years.
4 years. And there's teachers, as you know, when you're little, you can remember your first grade teacher, second grade, one that really helps. You know their name, Mrs. So-and-so, Do you see yourself as like into a future, like 20 years down the road, still teaching?
Definitely. So people often ask me if I would become the principal and run the school, if I ever thought about that. And the truth is, that's the thing I'm most reluctant to do. Why? Because I don't look forward to running back to working with adults. Like, being a paralegal was fun, but it was frustrating us losing cases because adults wouldn't comply. And for me, I can take that from a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 14-year-old. You only been on the earth for 14, 15, 16 years, 17 years. You can make as many mistakes and we can always dial it back. Right. I'll always be there for you. But then when you're like 40, 50, and I'm telling you this is the way to do it, and you're not listening, and then you destroy everything, and that's stressful for me. So I was like, yeah, I'm tired of people losing access to their kids and losing their apartment and losing all these crazy life things because they just won't listen. So I'm like, I'll go back to the kids. I'll teach the kids. And when it comes to adults now and teachers, I'm very close with the admin. I have a very comfortable situation in the school I'm in. So I'm not in a rush to take an admin position simply because my heart really is with teaching. It's with being there with the kids. And like last year, I won superlative most quotable. The kids always quote the stuff I say. They always repeat it, like, oh, no, don't do that. Oh, no, Mr. Brown's looking. Oh, language. Like, they're always saying different things that I say. So I'm like, all right, so there's a degree of which they like me, they're listening to me, and they're learning from what I'm doing and saying. So I'm like, you know what? As long as I keep doing this, I'm influencing more people than I actually would have, even as a lawyer. No offense,
happiness.
That's my happiness. That's my biggest thing in life was always to influence the children, influence the next generation, find a way to get them to see things the right way. And that's what I do every day. Every day they come to me with their problems. Like, I'm the one of the teachers they open up to. If something happened, they crying, they run over to Mr. Brown.
You still need to deal with the parents.
Oh yeah, and the parents. Now for me I'm not the teacher that has a problem with the parents. A lot of teachers struggle with talking to parents. That's not a problem I have. I have the greatest relationship with parents. I go to my phone, I have a bunch of kids' mom and dad's numbers. And I tell the kids all the time, I'm like, yo, I got your mom's number. Like, she's on speed dial. So you keep playing with me, this was gonna happen. This is high school, so they're like, yo, like, really? Like, how? Like, I'm like, bro, like, they understand where I'm coming from and they understand what you're doing, and we both understand, and we both trying to get you forward. We're not pushing you back. We're not trying to stand in your way. We're trying to make you shine.
So your future is bright in terms of where you see yourself.
Yes.
In terms of continuing to teach high schoolers, I guess, right?
Yes.
And so what does that look like? You in the same school? You going to what does that look like?
Right now, I'm gonna stick in the same school just because, for one, when they say when you switch around schools, the biggest thing you gotta fear is the admin. What type of administration are you moving to? Who's the principal gonna be? What are their goals? Like, what type of situation are you moving? Because if you're comfortable where you at, every teacher always say, yo, move there, stay there, lock in, don't leave, because it could be that much worse. But me personally, I'm a people person. I get along with everybody. So it's not an issue for me finding a new person and making a new friend or making a new relationship. And we're all there for the right purpose. We're all there for the kids. So since I walked in, like, I've gotten different offers for different things to do, 30 different positions. And I'm like, yo, it's only been 4 years. I still feel like I need at least 6-7 years before I take a position. I need to feel like I got enough experience. Gotcha. And then it's like, everyone, like, admin will pressure you to do certain things when you're not tenured. Okay. And I don't feel pressure because I do what I got to do. I do my job. So I'm not worried about tenure. I know I'm getting my tenure. I'm not worried about that. But other people are often.
And how many years do you need before you get tenure?
Now it's 4 years. It's not
4
even
years.
10 years anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 4 years. It's very easy. So this is the year I get tenure.
Wow.
And the prison already tapped me like, yo, when the time comes, you know what it is. I'm like, all right, cool.
All right, we'll have to celebrate that. Let us know.
Yeah, yo, for
Definitely
sure.
let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
What does your future look like?
So my future, so right now I'm working at a cancer center. I really like working in healthcare, and my future is going to be in healthcare. Still not sure where I'm going to take that though, but definitely going back to school and kind of figuring that out. You said what was like the best advice that you'd give to like your younger self?
Yeah.
I think my advice would be look into more like certificates. In the health field, they have you could do a lot with just a certificate. It's like 2 years of college, and then you take an exam. So you can do like all the X-ray, CTs, and stuff like that. It's all just a certificate. You do like physical, yeah, PCT, all certificate. You can do physical therapy assistance, a certificate, all stuff like that. And it's not like final destination for a lot of people, but it's a good start. It gives you like access to the healthcare field, and you're making a bit of money, and just lets you know like, is this what you want to do? It's lower commitment.
Now you say 2 years of college. How much college have you had?
So I have my bachelor's. I have 4 years of college,
Okay.
but my bachelor's in health science. My bachelor's, it's not very specific, so a lot of healthcare fields, it's like it doesn't give you a lot, right? It's like you don't have experience exactly with our specific type of thing, right? It's not quite administrative. It's also not quite provider. So either way, I probably have to go back for something if I want to advance in my field.
Gotcha.
Right. So, but other than that, like, I think the future's bright for a lot of kids, just because there are so many options.
Is the future bright for you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we got plenty of time. Been on this planet for a long time, but yeah, we dog on social media a lot for being like a negative in a lot of ways, and it is. But the one good thing it does is it gives you perspective of like the different avenues that you can take, right? Like you can get slipped up in that echo chamber, but you can also, find new things that you never even knew existed in the world, and kind of be open to that, like, just content creation in general. It's like these guys making money, he's just making videos of himself in his house. Like that's amazing. How do you do that? And then you get into like cameras and into a podcast. Next thing you know, you're working with movies. Like you stumble into things. And I don't know, without social media, how many people would not find that?
Yeah.
What does your future look like, Malcolm?
Well, so the past 4 or 5 years, I've been like more so focusing on being a father, a better father, to make sure my son possibly don't follow my footsteps, but if you do, follow my footsteps in a better light, and telling him as my younger self, when you have an opportunity, take it.
How old is your son?
14.
What's his name?
Malcolm. So I would like Malcolm to take his opportunities, and when he gets them, and go full-fledged and just do it. Don't say you want to do it and then get there and it's, you know what, this isn't, no, I'm not going to do it. Like, I don't want to discourage him also to be like, because like you wanted to be a lawyer, but then you found something else that was like, oh, shoot, maybe this is even a better fit for me. But besides being a father for my future, like I said, I do music and audio engineer and stuff like that. But besides music, honestly, since I was young, I was always into like community, like Kim said. I've always been in like community protests when they was doing protests for stop and frisk. I was a part of that crowd. We was making big banners and stuff like that. And I also do want to give back to like the youth or the YNs or whatever. Whether that have to, because I had a studio before, and that's sort of kind of what I was doing, or what I was leading to. Like, oh yeah, because school had came back. Like, all right, yo, you doing good? Yo, you come record for free. But then when I fell out with my partners, I kind of felt bad. Like, dang, I don't even got this no more. And then people in between, stuff started happening with them. Like, dang, I had a fortress. I didn't even know what I had in my hand. So that's what I mean by opportunity. Seeing the opportunity and taking it and grasping it to understand what you got going on. And it will never be the end for you. It's like y'all always say, yeah, something else is down the line. Like, all right, you into cameras, you will be a filmmaker in 2-3 years. Just a matter of about how much opportunities and how much time you put into it.
What about you, Tyler?
I'm so glad that I'm last. and the way that I say it, the reason I say that is because like all three of y'all have said something that kind of just like that hit. You know, finding your happiness. I think that's definitely one thing I would like to do in the future. Seriously, you know, and you even mentioned like, I mean, yeah, we can go down the scope of social media and all that all day long, but there is different angles and avenues that, you know, have been presented, and a lot of that stuff has came to me in the past too. And, you know, especially what Malcolm just said is like seizing the opportunity and try not to let little things like that slip away. I feel like it goes in two different ways. So as I plan on my future, there's a lot that I can determine, a lot that I can't. What I can now is I know that, you know, I do have some blessings coming to me soon. You know, like I said, I'm newly married. You know, hopefully there's going to be a little bonbon on the way. You know, with that, you know, and growing with somebody, I think is one thing that I'm really looking forward to. Is like now is that the actual time of my life that I do get to spend with my wife. You know, working in the industry and doing all these things that I have for like the damn near 10 years we've been together. There was only like a certain point in time where I would only see her like maybe like twice a month, once a week type thing like that. And now that
you guys been married?
we've been married for a year. We got married in September last year of 23. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We got married in September of that year, but we've been together for 9. So yeah, we sell. Yeah, we were basically already there. The ring just sealed the deal. It's like can't go nowhere. Like, she not going nowhere. Like, you know, our anniversary is coming up too, and those are things that I've been thinking about. I was like, I've been with you for like going on 10 years. It's the longest I've spent with somebody, like truly, you know. So it's like I'm very happy to see where that aspect of my life goes because it's very new to me. You know, I've been with her forever, but marriage is completely different. I think so, and you know, and then I look at different aspects of my career and places that I've been and things that I've done, and like everything that y'all have said has like, all right, cool. Like I've had times where I let, you know, perfect opportunities like slip through my hands, or, you know, not grasp the intensity of like the value of something at that point. And then I think an also thing is like even in doing so is like you miss out on certain happiness or things that could have changed your life completely or changed the trajectory of your life in that instant. So like I feel like if I can tell my younger self one thing, this is just, you know, try to say yes more. Be open. And I mean definitely listen to moms, because, you know, she was telling you a bunch of stuff that you should have been paid attention to. And I feel like, you know, that those are just that right there. Simple. Yeah.
Nice.
So here's another big topic. The question is, how has race affected the quality of your life?
Oh man, this is great. So I can jump right into this one.
Please.
When we met, I was actually being super affected. Like I felt like the fact that I was a black man with a degree, it was horrible. Like,
really?
Yeah, I felt horrible. I was
Why?
looking for work and I could not find work for like 6 months after college. And it was crazy to me because I went into a Burger King, put in an application, sat with the boss right away. He saw the resume. He saw that I had a college degree, and he was like, why here? I'm like, bro, honestly, don't even stress the degree, man. I'll take the minimum wage. I just need to pay my rent. I'm just trying to get through right now. I need this right now. As the interview ended, I got up. As I'm walking away, I see him start another one with another person who doesn't even speak English. That lady had on the uniform before I left out the store. I was like, this is crazy. But he spoke her language. There was some nepotism there, some connection, and that's when I really started to understand nepotism and what it really is.
Oh yeah, that's heavy.
Yeah, like it's not so much about race all the time. It's all about people want to help themselves out.
True, but it definitely does play a factor. And
yeah,
that's that community thing again. It's like you look like me, you talk like me, I'm gonna get you in.
I feel like, unfortunately, and I feel like this is why it's great that we're here, brothers, because it's really our people got to look back and help our people. Yeah, that's really what it is. Like you really got to. That's why I was looking for a black lawyer. That's how we linked up. Right. That's how I found Vernon after. because it was like I realized that I'm not gonna get any grace from any of these attorneys of different races. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna get that chance to start in their law firm.
You know what's crazy too though is that it sucks to say that, but like we're also our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Because as many times as that we will seek out help from our kind or people that are like us, is the same people that are also judging us in different situations. Let the shoe be on the other foot. And I feel like it we don't pay attention to how much that damages our community.
Yeah.
Without thinking. You get what I'm saying? And like because there's so much that I've seen, and I'm telling you, like working in kitchens and being around people that come from Istanbul or Turkey or Africa and Ecuador, Puerto Rico, Nigeria, whatever, their sense of community is completely different. And I feel like a lot of that does fall on Western civilization as well, and especially within the urban community. But I feel like once we try to like break out of that stigma and kind of be like, man, I'm just going to help you because I feel like we need to. We're not helping each other.
Well, that's, and I'm going to let you guys answer the question, but that, one of the other questions I have, first of all, do you guys know about the Million Man March? Does anybody? Okay. So it was about almost 30, 40 years ago.
1995.
And when folks, after the Million Man March, there was a brotherhood.
Yeah.
And there was this unity. And so the question is there still a brotherhood? Is there still a unity?
Not because we're all in competition with one another.
Yeah, we need to have another march. Yeah. Honestly.
Really?
We need to
we need a march to come together?
I don't think we need a march. I don't think we need a march. I think that what movie was I watching the other day? That movie with when it was about the Black Panther Party starting up, and it just came out.
Messiah?
Not Black Messiah, Judas
and
the Black Messiah or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it like I guess like at that point in time, like I was just looking into like wow, like Black Panther, like that unity that existed within the community, because like the perception was the Black Panthers were a gang or a militia or a terrorist group or something like that. But then realistically, they were popping more turkeys and feeding the neighborhoods than the Red Cross. You know what I'm saying? So if you look at that, it's like at that time presented the need for that community, that group.
And that's an excellent point, which is what prompts my question. I was recently this is a year ago now, I was on a jazz cruise and sitting with some of my dinner guests. And one of the topics that came up, we were talking about race and the quality of life and how it impacts us. But one of the things that came out of that was there is no us.
No.
There's no us anymore. Right?
Culture in the community has been destroyed.
It's jaded.
It's disenfranchised. Like that's how the system is made for us to be.
What do you mean?
So the reason why we have the perception of high crime in our environments and why we keep telling this to each other is a part of it's in itself. It's a level of disenfranchisement. You want to feel disconnected from your community. You want to feel that's not us. This is darkness. This place is bad. You know, like they
chase a different dream.
Yeah,
like,
and then chase another environment. You know, and they go there and enrich their community. Where it's like it speaks. It goes back to even like the Black Flight back in the day. It's like when everybody left Baltimore and then you saw Baltimore fall apart. Everyone left Chicago. White flight. Yeah.
But doesn't that go back to what Tyler was saying, which is, you know, you seek out a Black lawyer, you seek out a Black doctor, you seek out a Black chef or whatever, right?
Preacher, right.
But then you're not, for some reason we're our own worst enemy. We are. I mean, it's one thing to criticize, but there's some folks who say, I'm not going over there for a Black lawyer. I'm not going there for a Black doctor. And they may have their reasons, but is that the same when I say there's no us?
Yes.
Like how can there be an us if we're not going to patronize us?
We're not believing in us. Yeah.
There was something I had, like I was on a game show like maybe 3-4 years ago called Do You Know Black? And afterwards, we had like this coffee kind of conversation, like after the whole thing, and we were talking about Black entrepreneurs and businesses. And I think I said something along the lines like, if you're not willing to be a part of it, then you need to stand on the sideline and be a spectator.
Okay.
And I feel like when you talk about things like that, like seeking out Black businesses or partaking in our own community or seeking that help, is that you're either going to play on the field or you're going to be in the benches watching. And the reason why I say that is because there's so much. People give the example of, like let's say a Black bank was to open up tomorrow and they were trying to be on the status of JP Morgan. There's going to be so much of a hesitation with giving into that because we don't feel secure that the white man's going to make sure that money's where it's supposed to be.
Well, there were Black banks. There was Carver
right.
and Freedom National, which Freedom National Bank is no longer around.
Exactly.
But Carver, I think, is still
I think Carver
is still around, right?
But I'm saying, like, if I'm talking about like J.P. Morgan, like these
In terms of
banks,
that level.
in
Right,
towards of that
absolutely.
level, there's going to be that hesitation, like, I don't know.
Right.
And the reason why we do that is because at the end of the day, it falls onto our conversation earlier about crime. And I said that you can bump shoulders with somebody in Starbucks that could probably commit 4 more felonies than you can count. And the reason is that within our community, we kind of look at things 2 different ways. So, yeah, I can get help from this person, but then I don't know if they're actually going to do me right. Mm-hmm. And then there's situations to where you can actually see that happen. So it's kind of like left up to the perception of like, if I'm going to go and get all this work done on my house and go to this black contractor, and then he kind of does me wrong or like takes all the money and puts up horrible work, and
are you soured on all black contractors?
No, but some people are, and that's a perception. And I feel like each person's gonna have their own experience be the filter on their lens when they look at things like that. Sure. And I feel like that's going to be the one thing that separates us from being able to move forward. Because I feel like it could happen. I feel like it needs to happen. We need it more than ever, especially going into this new political climate that we're in, and the temperature amongst us is kind of iffy right now. Like, instead of separating, we should be regrouping. You know what I mean? We should all be taking a beat and just like, what is going on now? What can we prepare for? Because when it all hits the fan, like, there's not going to be much support for us.
Well, right, and I guess that's why my initial question was, how has race impacted the quality of your life? Has it impacted yours?
I mean, it definitely has. Like, race is always a factor. It always feels like it. I always love to think when I was a kid, it always comes back to community. I primarily grew up in a mostly black neighborhood, mostly black school. So the term minority never like fit in my head, because it's not my reality. Yeah, we have the cookouts, and it's all people that look like me. For me, the only time I really saw it was like on TV or like through movies. And it's like, well, they just forgot black people existed for 2 hours. But like it really hit me when I went to like college. You move out of your neighborhood, and it's like, damn, I'm one of like 2 black people in this whole room. And like the first time, like that really stuck with me. It's like, I'm gonna remember how this feels, because it's not gonna be the last time. But yeah, race, like it impacts me. Like you said, when you're applying to jobs, we have our white people voice where we go into the interview and just like, hey, what's going on? Exactly, just higher pitch, everything's proper.
Especially if you have what they don't call like a traditional black name. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they see Tyler on the resume, they're just like, oh yeah, there's. Then they see you, right? Oh, excuse me. You know what happens? It goes from a handshake to like, yo, what's up? Like, I was like, nah, keep that same energy. I feel like you were saying, like, I feel like race really didn't hit me crazy like that until I was in college too. And I feel like even though I was in Baltimore, which is a majority black city, I would say that the community for which I was in a culinary school. So that area was completely different. So I did have, high amount of white kids in there. There was some, I don't even think that anybody there was Hispanic, but it was a mixture. But then it was like, you feel like where that separation is at. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen how like certain professors, certain culinary instructors, certain jobs that were provided for certain students after school and all that. And what I had to do to get my job when I was in school was like, you see little things like that. And I was just like, Baltimore is different. Like, you get that perception, but then also has somebody that brought me to Morgan and Howard, and I got to feel what it's like to be black in college. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, when can I put my transfer papers in? But I was like, it's different though.
Yeah, I only experience race, not necessarily. I could say I'm guilty in a way of being prejudiced, because I don't go to black barbershops. I just started going to black barbershops, but then again, they West Indian. I'm West Indian too. But I don't know. I always had this perception in my mind, like, I ain't going. I'm gonna go mess with the Dominicans over here because they gonna hook me up. Yeah. My experience going to black barbershops before nowadays, because they got a whole new hairstyling process. But when I was younger, it was like, all right, yeah, we gonna give you the Michael Jordan. We gonna give you the ball. I don't want that in my head. Yeah. Or they want to give you a Nike part. It's like, I don't want that. So the Spanish barbers though, they'll come with the blade. Especially now, sometimes they'll give you the rag.
Yeah.
So you feel like, pop you one back. Yeah, fact.
With the fade with the wave.
Yeah. It's more
Service.
Yeah, it's more service than you feel like. Oh yeah,
I'm taking care of.
Nah, I'm really, but my experience goes to pipe wash. All right, get out of here. Yeah. But I really experienced race, like personally, when it came, like a lot of times with Spanish people. Don't know why. Like I was just yelling at some Spanish people in McDonald's because they were trying to steal my money and not give my food.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to this restaurant before, and this Spanish lady in there with my friend. He's light skinned like you, but he got dreads. So she see him, she's like, "Oh, hey, Papi, how you doing?" I'm like, "You know her?" He's like, "No." She like, "Yeah, what y'all want?" Da, 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 da. So she's like, "Yeah, are you Spanish?" He's like, "Me? No, mommy, I'm just light skinned." She said, "You sure?" He's like, "Yeah, mommy, nah." She said, "Maybe your mother never tell you something." He said, "What? Both my parents are dead, and no, my father's light skinned." She's like, "No, you sure? You should go on Ancestry and look." I say, "Yo, this lady's losing her mind." And then she looked at me. She's like, "Yeah, and make sure that you safe. Don't get in no trouble." He's like, "Huh?"
Wow.
She's like, "Yeah, watch your friends and the people around you." I say, "Yo," I'm like, "Yo, come on, let's get the food and let's go, bro." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Let's go, bro." I had to explain to him after because he wasn't feeling what I was feeling. He just felt she was being weird. This is on Jamaica Ave like 3 years ago.
See, I feel like after a certain time, like this discretion with racism kind of just got thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Like
People making comments.
People making comments and just
freely.
just freely. Like
Microaggression is
there would be
crazy.
a time where you could be a little racist, just be like, you say it under your breath. Now it's just I'm in the comments, or I'm gonna say it to your face, or you could just hear something that's just like wildly out of pocket. Like,
Well, speaking of which, what do you think about Trump's comment about black jobs?
I mean,
Remember he said that?
yeah, his choice of vocabulary is crazy. I mean,
which comment about the black jobs?
there's a lot, right?
So quite a few things about jobs and
black people,
low jobs, and
So he was being
he calls them black jobs. I was like, wait.
Right, he was being interviewed by the panelist of Black Journalists, and he's talking, and he's obviously talking about the migration, the migrants, and that sort of thing, and then he's making the statement that migrants are coming here and coming to the United States and taking black jobs. Right. So, what's your thought? What's your thought on this, on that comment about black jobs?
Well, I've always I brought up Trump a couple times in my classroom. Like when he came out with his sneakers right before he got in, he got the Trump kicks. Yeah, like and I'm like, and that was literally a ploy to get to us. Yeah. That wasn't for the white folks. Yeah. That was for us. Mm-hmm. He made fake pictures of like him being on the stoop with black people chilling on the stoop, hanging out like Brooklyn back in the days, and they were completely photoshopped. And they were circulating all over the internet. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. This man. So that's what he does. He has the perception that black people live a low level life. That's how he looks at it. We have all the small jobs. The
a man of his stature thinks that everybody is beneath him, to be 100% honest.
What's a black job? Yeah. What is that?
That's
I don't know if he's trying to say a barber.
Yeah, barber, janitor. He's looking at like
about your job in the
job
specific community.
Yeah, like
there's
I want to say low paying jobs. That's probably what he means. Okay. Because if you think about it from like I'm from a family of immigrants, right? Like my experience is not entirely the Black American experience.
Where's your family?
We're Black Jamaican. Okay. We're all Jamaican. So then me and my brother are the only two born here. Okay. So we grew up experiencing America and like being like we're getting caught in the racism foolishness, but it's almost like side view, like because our true growth and experience is immigrant. Mm. So our family getting jobs and having multiple jobs, and we the Jamaicans. Mm-hmm. So the Jamaican immigrant, y'all working and doing all the jobs, you have 2-3 jobs, like that's like how they always like really that's how they stigmatize us. Yeah. They stigmatize us as like the super hard workers. Right. Yeah. But then that's like it's not necessarily a negative stigma. It's a positive stigma in terms of like even how like white folks perceive Jamaicans. Mm-hmm. Like, oh no, y'all work hard, y'all do what y'all do. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, I didn't have that horrible stigma, but at the same time it's like it took a little while before they knew I was Jamaican, Mm-hmm. And I'm speaking like an American, everything about me is American until after a few years I learned the lingo and I know when to release it and play with people's minds. So but that all came out of experience in life and knowing that being different actually does mean something, even in your Black community. because I experience racism in Black community from Blacks to Blacks. Like I've had Jamaican parents talking on the phone with Jamaican parents as a teacher, talking with them, and they're like, because their son said something like, I'm not Black, or something along those lines. And I'm like, yeah, what you mean? And I was like, sit them down, like, nah, brother, you gotta love your Blackness, man. And I talk to moms and pops, and then I find out that that's where it came from. And I'm like, oh, so I see how in our community there's a separation of Blackness and feeling of Blackness. It goes back to that question you asked about culture, and like, are we connected?
Right.
I find that even in our community in Queens, you can look around, like the African environment, the African area, like where there's like, it's heavy right there on like Linden, towards the end of Linden. They're all over there, and they even don't view themselves as Black.
Nah, they don't.
Black. Like they don't consider themselves as part of the Black American.
You're not surprised by that, are you?
No, not at all. I'm not surprised.
And why aren't you surprised by that?
Simply because I'm from the Jamaican heritage.
Okay.
So I see how, like, even like when I was growing up, my father or my mom would say things to me along the lines of like, don't get caught up. Don't get mixed up in the American Black ways. Stay focused. Do what you got to do. Stay on the school.
But you see how that is when we say there's no us. You see the problem that
it's also
it kind of starts. From his example, it's kind of like it starts in the household.
It creates you to be prejudice going on the outside.
Right. So that means that Black Americans have to be the lowest of low in people's perception. I mean, because even Black Jamaicans don't want to be. They don't want the Black American culture. Right. Absolutely.
When you hear like bizarre, go back to Africa. This is when Trump got elected for the first term. In my kitchen, my dishwasher was African. He was from Nigeria, and I remember there was something that was like, "Oh, you gonna go back to Africa?" He was saying, like, one of the servers was joking. He was like, "Oh, would you go back to Africa if Trump got elected?" I'm like, "No, they don't want me over there." And my African dishwasher was back. He was like, "Yes, we don't want you at all. We don't want you at all. No." Like,
keep that over there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because it's how they view us. Yeah. And it's also how we view them too. And you can't be like, we're also part of that stigma. Like, we're also gonna view like Africa. When you look at Nigeria or you look at certain places in Africa, you're not seeing what you're supposed to see, which is truly the perception. But if you go there, you're really not getting what you're supposed to, because they don't want us in there either.
So what happens is the perception of Black Americans is so interesting to me, because a number of years ago I had an opportunity to go to Kenya, Nairobi, to visit a friend of mine who was in like Peace Corps or something similar to that. And I spent 3 weeks over there. And so we would be out in desert area, and we'd go out and we'd see the tribes, and there would be like this little, I don't know, even not even a house, like not even, obviously not a bodega, but something similar, like you would see at a gas station. Nothing there, in the middle of nowhere. And there were a couple of things they wanted to talk about. First of all, you saw all Coca-Cola, so you could buy Coca-Cola. Yeah. The other thing is they were so familiar, and this was I went in 1992. They were so familiar with the Jeffersons and Good Times. That was their perception of Black people.
Wow.
So what do we need to do, if there's something we need to do as a community, to have that perception change? Or because right now we are so, when I say we, you guys are of a certain age, and you talk about the YNs, they want to go and they want to wear the mask and the whatever it is. They want to create that perception. So in the world, it's simple for the media. It's simple. Just point a camera at a YN.
Yep.
And the rest of the world thinks these are the Black folks.
Yeah.
How do we move away from that? Or can we?
Honestly, I think it's stuff like this. It's podcasts.
Yeah.
It's social media.
Positive media.
Yeah.
You know what else? I think it's out every single outlet you can think of. Art has to be part of that too, because I feel like people don't speak on what Afro Beats has done for Africa as far as putting it on the spotlight of like they can still produce. Like, this has been like the biggest influx of creativity in music since what was that African singer from back in the day?
Female?
Male. You know what I'm talking about, man. He has so many good songs from like the 70s and all that too. I don't want to disrespect by saying his name wrong and whatever, but I feel like Afrobeats now has done so much, and because the reason why I say this, there was a documentary by Vice magazine that did a documentary on Afrobeats with like Wizkid and like Burna Boy and all of them coming up, and you saw like through a true lens, until they got bought by Fox, you saw through a true lens of what like Nigeria kind of looked like at that point. And I was like, oh wow, like it's not what you just perceive like everybody's living in the dirt or something like that. It's like you hate to think of that, but that's all you're shown.
That's right.
Right?
Like now they got I forgot what app it is, but they do show quote unquote, well not quote unquote, it's like the rich Africans living in Africa.
Yeah.
You looking at it and you're like, are they in Beverly Hills right now?
No,
They're in Africa.
Series.
Yeah.
Like I'm seeing more shows that are like showing rich Africans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just saw a commercial for one the other day. It was like I think it's called Young. I think it's actually called
Young
Rich
Famous in
Africa.
Africa.
Yeah. Young Famous
They
in
only
Africa.
act. They do act a little too Americanized.
Well, because
You're
that
watching.
show was
Because
put up
they-
to be like
exactly.
Yeah.
So this is like the African Paris Hiltons and
Yeah, basically, yeah.
But you see, like,
yeah,
you
the
got,
drama,
like,
you
I
know,
see.
all that fun
What
stuff.
is it? The African little Hollywood right now that's coming up.
Mhm.
They're doing all their movies and their TV shows
Oh, what's that,
and like the
Bob-
music
Bob-
and stuff like
Mhm.
that. It's different. I
I
feel
used to
like
watch the Nigerian movies and stuff.
Yeah, but now they're
Yeah.
bigger now. They're more money's been put into them. I'm not gonna lie, and that's why I said like there's more opportunity for Black people now.
Yeah.
Period. Like there's so many different ways that we are like
I feel like it's
showing our
great
face
that
on
I feel like
media.
it's more opportunity.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like R.I.P. TikTok, because that was like one of the things I was definitely gonna give you stuff in other countries you wasn't expected to see, you know. But
My son was just telling me about, it's this funny stuff in Russia I want to watch. It's done. It's done, kid. It's over.
This happened. It was like 4:00 in the morning. It was like a random night, like 2 years ago. This is when TikTok was like still like starting to come up. I was watching this dude in Russia like get ready to fist fight a bear. Yeah, it was live. He was like recorded live, and he was just like down in as much vodka as possible to like build up the courage. I was like, what is going on?
That is.
I was like, nah, I can't watch the rest of this. Yeah, bro, like.
So here's a new question for you guys. What are your biggest dating challenges?
Them.
I cannot.
You're married now.
I'm married, but I mean,
but
safely, I can speak on myself.
I'm
at the same safely. What I say is, so I have two different perspectives. I can come on my past, but then I can also speak on what I see. And I feel like what I see is kind of like perfect for the context. Like I said before, working in nightlife, I would see a very toxic level of dating, and a very, very toxic level of dating. You know, a lot of just. Yeah. And then even in, on my own like experiences that I see with like my friends and stuff like that, I feel like dating now is very hard. And I see like I get a lot of complaints and like, I feel that I have friends that come to me for advice. I guess because I've had like a successful relationship for almost a decade and like that I just got married. It's like, oh man, maybe you know something. That's fine. Whatever. And I feel like not the perspective, but the conscience mind now or whatever is going on in this generation, especially for dating, is that there's a lot of like toxicity being glorified. And it takes away from wanting to pursue longevity because you got these dating apps and you got, I know I can go to the club and like pull whatever. And that's coming from both sides, male and female, and then there's a lot of things that lead up for just in the moment, but they're not really planning for a future or stuff like that. I feel like there's some people that really don't feel to be invested in something like that and just, that to each their own. But I feel like when you're surrounded by like so many mixed messages, especially if you want something in for your life, it's very hard to kind of like shake that influence. You know what I mean? Because it's everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like the hot girl summers and the city girls winters destroyed it all.
Yeah.
Over.
What is this?
You got to break it down now.
What's this?
Hot girl summer. That's a quote from Megan Thee Stallion. You're probably familiar with
Yes,
her.
I am.
City girls now. Yeah, city girls are what a lot of women, I don't want to say all, but what a lot of women, especially younger women, choose to want to pursue, especially definitely 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas party life, I'm an independent woman, but in my head, I say sometimes women are too independent, but so independent to the fact you don't want a man or you feel like you don't need a man, but you want a man to be around. But then, like he said, the toxicity is coming out because why? The hot girl summers, and then you have social media. Every girl wants to be a baddie.
So what's crazy is remember how we was talking about young nigga syndrome?
Mm-hmm.
There's like that brat or that city girl syndrome is just as bad.
It's just
It's just as bad.
And
And
you have 30-year-old women and feeling like they 21.
Yep. I mean,
Everybody want to get a BBL and
You know what it is I feel like the same thing. Like we have that melting pot or like that mixture, that recipe that creates these kids, and the same thing that creates creates these young men. Same thing that creates these young women at the same time. And now you match those two together, ain't nobody going nowhere. One of them probably gonna end up in jail for doing so crazy. But the worst part about it is that they're attracted to one another. That's the worst part. So like, I know y'all probably seen that those little dating things where they have the dude come up and the girls have the balloon and they have to pop it to see it. That's the most embarrassing thing in the world.
I don't know how people.
What, they're popping the balloons?
So it's like, imagine like a fast track dating kind of show. Yeah. Speed dating almost. So you have like a man or a woman come up and then there'll be like a group or like
we're not feeling the person.
pop the balloon. Like there was.
Then you got to tell them the reason why.
Yes. Yes. That's the
Yeah, I don't
worst.
like his shoes. Nope. Nope. You got a nice smile, but nope. His shoes. Nope.
The smallest, stupidest things people get disqualified.
Exactly.
For. And I'm like, this is why the dating world is so hard. Because people are looking at these nitpick, stupid criteria for a relationship, and it's like, bro, that's not even important. Like, not even this. Like, what I'm wearing today does not define who I am.
What's crazy in the business term that's called optics. Like, we're looking at the optics of the situation. Constantly the optics. Like what his jeans look like. Is he got what kind of shoes he got on? Do he get money? Do he not get money? Like, all right. Do you? What do you do? You know what I mean? Like, are you in the streets all day? You at the club? Or are you trying to get your nursing degree? Like where we going?
Nursing the day.
Bottle girl at night. But.
Like, yo, you just dressed down from your scrubs to nothing.
See what's crazy is like, you talked about, a lot of things that young women are doing nowadays. Like, don't get me wrong. It's like, one thing is I was raised by women. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna respect whatever you do. I really just put it in perspective, like it's your world. Like we're just living in it. At the end of the day, like that's truly is. But what you choose to do with your world affects what I'm trying to do as well. You know what I'm saying? Because because you either tolerate it or, you try to find somebody that's going to be in a different type of timing or something like that. And it's hard because then you have to look.
I say that's what everybody keep doing. I don't like this. No, I want this. I don't like this. Yeah, so you just think this is going to be perfect, I guess. That's
So does that mean that you guys spend or have to spend more time getting to know a woman?
I would rather doing that.
Because you're saying there's a toxicity that exists. I mean, that you're gonna know that. You may not know that in, 5 weeks of dating.
Yeah, true.
It may not.
Sometimes you can.
Sometimes you can, depending on the setting.
And sometimes it pops up after you put a ring on it, right? No, but I agree. No, trust me, we are good. But I feel like it's so crazy, man, because it's like you could literally find somebody, or like there's different things that come into it, like optics. You can be like, oh, he got something good on, she got something good on, smells good, whatever. Okay, that can lead to one thing or it can lead to another. You can want to pursue another time with it, or in most cases, situation, toxicity takes over. You do what you do, and then the next minute you're probably not even thinking about that person, or if you do, it either stays on one thing and plateaus. You know what I mean? I think my perception is I feel like the effort to build upon something seems tiring. Because it's like checking into another job. You get what I'm saying? That's why.
But isn't relationships?
That's what I'm getting to. That's what I'm getting to because it is a job. It is a.
But really though, are you gonna disrespect your boss?
Who says that's your boss? That's your coworker. Realistically, your boss or your kids when you get to that point.
Would you disrespect your coworker?
Multiple times I have, but that's the thing. You have to create a positive work environment. If you're disrespecting your coworker, you got a negative working environment. Right. If that's going back and forth, it's like I can't work with this person.
Somebody gonna leave.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna put my resignation papers in.
So is that why? I mean, I know you're married. I know the three of you are not. So is that why the three of you are not married? Because the dating world is so hard. Women.
My situation is interesting.
I'm not trying to get into your personal business, but I'm just trying to get a sense of, because you're saying it's like, I don't know, it's like you're saying there's toxicity that's there. It's almost like you're saying women are repellent? I mean, what are we saying?
I would say women are repellent. I would say, so look, there's a level of toxicity that exists right now when on the dating scene and relationships in general from both sides, right? I think I said that. So when I say by that is it's like it's glorified by everything we see and everything we do, because it's not just we talk about social media. Social media plays a big part. Dating apps even worse, right? We talk about music. Yeah. So the same. It's like you have it's all entertainment at the end of the day. You have the Cardi B's, the Sexy Red, the Ice Spice and all that. It really supposed to be entertainment. The same way gangster rap and all the others are supposed to be entertainment. When you start living in that lifestyle or start thinking that it's real, that's when you go to a whole different thing. You know what I mean?
Are these the women that you're meeting? They want to be in that
Not
lifestyle?
all of them, but the thing is you can't always tell the difference between ones that are like that and ones that aren't.
Exactly.
Because they dress the same, they talk the same, they listen to the same music, they part of the same collectives, they got the same homegirls. So it's like you can either engage in the 24 hours or really try to know somebody to where you have to kind of take that out. But then it's the same thing coming from their perspective too.
Because we sometimes looked at as like he said before, oh yeah, you're a fuckboy.
And we can all look the same too.
You're not you making 100,000? Oh, you don't look like you're making 100,000.
Exactly. Like we can all dress the same. You know, I can have jewelry on just like the next cat. You know, so it's like your perception. You can think I'm like that too, but then are you really getting to know me, or are you just seeing in what you see? You know.
Yeah, I think the big problem is patience.
That's what I said. Yeah.
I think it's patience in many ways. Like, even like not to go too personal, but I'm gonna say patience in the sense that, for one, where we are right now as Black men, it's hard to hit that 100K threshold. You know, it's hard to hit that money that you can actually 100% hold on your family. So the problem is, a lot of women nowadays don't want to wait. They don't have the patience to build with you. This goes back to what you're saying in the building. The idea of building in a relationship and commitment is, these youths struggle with commitment.
You got to be built already.
They don't have the capacity to commit. And I'm talking about, like, so I preach to my kids CDC, commitment, dedication, and I'm losing it. Consistency. Those three things, if you have that in America, you're going to be successful. Commitment, dedication, consistency. And that's also goes same for relationship. It also goes same for job. It also gets any aspect of your life. Have those three things, you're good. The problem is we struggle with all three. You know, like even the top students in my class, A students, they're not consistent. They struggle with that.
So if the goal, we're just throwing this out as a threshold number, is for, let's say, you say the man to, if he can't get 100K to hold down his family, where's the woman in that equation?
And that's the next thing.
Exactly.
Now, the big thing now, what's popular all over social media, is that we're reverting back to the traditional,
quote unquote,
but while still maintaining the modern woman, which is exactly,
So are you feeding on the idea of like happy wife, happy life as long as I got 100,000?
But see, that's the thing. What's being pushed out there in the media, that's what's being pushed. You
I
gotta
disagree,
hit that
because
money number, and then things will flow. And that's
they want you built already.
See, I disagree with that.
I'd rather
too.
build with somebody, but
we both would always rather build with somebody. I'm fortunate that I'm building with somebody, but I feel like that opinion is loosely biased, because there's also like, how do you not? So hear me like this: a woman that's already playing into that, that's her game. She's gonna find a trick. You get what I'm saying? And that's kind of like what that whole thing is like, oh, if she's living this lifestyle and she needs to be upheld, then I'm gonna maintain her, then I'm just gonna spend that money on her. Realistically, you don't have to do that. Because at the end of the day, like if you're dealing with somebody who got their own money, regardless of what she's doing, let her get her own money. Give the woman that area to breathe in. But I feel you on that, you want to be able to feel to provide, because that's what men naturally want to think. It's an animalistic kind of, predatory feeling that you want to be able to provide. That's always going to be that thing, the same way a woman's going to feel that way too about her young. But when it gets to that point, I feel like there's a loose line to where like a man can kind of do too much and enable a woman. You get what I'm saying? And like that's kind of what happens too, to where like you have the nice guys who get taken advantage of. You get what I'm saying? Like I said, you're gonna find a trick anywhere. Honestly, and it's very different. It's very different.
There's too many guys like that.
True, but then
too many guys
that have finances,
they get
that
tricked
are
out,
just throwing their money at women, and they believe that this is norm. They're getting used to this.
Who believes that it's norm? Both?
The woman.
Oh, the woman believes
So,
because
like,
they also hearing it in music too.
Yeah, exactly. They hear it in music. I'm coming across too many girls that's the mentality. the idea is like, oh, nah, you got to take care of me. And I'm like, okay, well, you take care of yourself. I'll see you later. You know, I'm not coming in to just take care of you.
Right.
We have to work together. It's a team thing. That's how I grew up. That's how I
but
raised.
that's when you reach
like,
that level
you know.
of, yo, let's build. You're not just casually dating. You're not just doing anything regular. That's why I'm saying there's a difference between the 24 and there's a difference of like trying to move on to something else. And I feel like that right there is just like speaking to that moment. You know what I mean? Like, are we just gonna be hanging out and and then she's still expecting a certain amount from him? Like, that's kind of crazy because we're not really reaching a level to where that's appropriate.
I feel the ones
know what
that
I mean?
expect more, are honestly, the ones who have kids already. They need extra.
Yeah, that's hard too because you
You need extra.
Yeah.
You need the extra. No matter how much money she quote unquote get in or anything, she gonna still.
Yeah.
Oh, my kid needs this, or
but see, then what is she really doing at the end of the day? Tricking him out. Exactly. You know.
But most men that do that, first of all, let's just be real. We men. Most of us when we young, well, from the podcasts I've been watching, most of us when we young, we don't have no value.
That's true.
We don't have no value.
Value comes.
A girl's already born with her value. All she gotta do is be pretty. Sometimes don't even have a nice body, but something. You feel me?
Yeah.
She gonna still get in the club. We can't get in the club at 18.
See, that's true.
They gonna be like, I'm sorry. You can't even get. You a YN? Oh hell no!
If you're at the line, will be down the block. There's a group of 4 dudes. Nah, y'all can wait. Mommy, come over here. How many you got? 6? I think I got a table for you. Like, yo, I'm like, listen. It's at the end of the day, like that's what sells my tables. That's what sells alcohol.
Because the older men in there that actually have the money is going to be.
There you go.
I'm gonna spend $600 on a bottle.
Yep.
Oh yeah, come to my section. I'm gonna get some hookahs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
come on, everything good. I might give you a little tip too for you to go home with. You can get your nails done tomorrow or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
But feel me, when a man is at that standpoint and you got the money now, oh dang, the money isn't really nothing because I get it. But dang, I always wanted her right there. I wanted her right there. Oh, this is a new one. I never saw her before. So you know what? What you need? Oh, that's it?
Yep.
Yeah, that's nothing. Here you go. I'm getting paid on Friday. Don't worry about it.
Nice.
Don't worry about it.
Run it.
Wow.
Hey, get your daughter something too.
All right.
So this one last question before we call it a day. We may actually have to. The question I have is why do black men have shorter lifespans?
Now, that one, I think that speaks back to our crime question of environments. Like, crime occurs in every environment, but doesn't occur in the same way. Like, when I was a kid in high school over at Cardozo High School, because they had the crime program, the criminology program. You go in there. So I went in there in that program. We had one of our assignments was to study the crime in your environment versus the crime around the school and compare and make some theories on that.
Okay.
The crime around the school is Bayside, because that's where Cardozo is. It's in Bayside High School. I mean, it's in Bayside, New York. Now, being in Bayside, Queens, the crime over there was not violent crime. They were all crimes that has to do with money. It was larceny, grand theft auto. Those are the 3 top crimes over there. And I thought about it. I asked around because after that class, I went around and asked around some of the little gangster Asians in the environment because like that's really who's committing crime over there. It's a little there was like Korean mafia. And then there was another mafia, huh?
Isn't that Astoria?
No, this is Bayside. Bayside Flushing. Like all
right.
That area. So you got Flushing and then coming down from Flushing as you get closer to our side, right here where we at. You'll hit Bayside first and you keep coming around and you'll hit like where Van is at Hillside and stuff and you keep coming in. So essentially over there it's money crime happening. You know, fraud, that type of stuff. And now my environment was violent crime, was the robberies, the assaults. And then I just kind of thought about like our people, like as a people, we are more resilient to rules, you know, authority. We have heavy authority issues because the authority, unfortunately, is usually Caucasian. And then we're the ones that were ruling us before. So it's that underground negativity, that's still kind of stuck around. Like that's why we don't really like the cops, you know, because none of them really look like us, you know, like, and the ones that police our environments don't often look like us. So it's like it's a resilience to be compliant with what's being told to us. You know, it's a resistance to compliance, basically.
So black men have shorter lifespans because you're saying because of
Yeah, resistance to compliance.
Resistance
Yeah,
and
we won't
compliance.
fall in with the rules that are keeping us alive.
I see. I see. And that's rules across the board.
Across
so
the board.
That's lifestyle. That's
Insurance, eating, going to the doctor, gym, all that stuff.
Right.
We don't stay on top of that because, unfortunately, I believe the reason why we don't is because we often we can't. Like our livelihoods, if we're in the poor section, we worry about keeping lights on, keeping the house afloat,
But you
keeping
can't.
food on the table.
I think I'm being real when I say you can't keep the lights on, you can't keep food on the table if you're not a healthy black man.
Yeah, but that's a lot of us aren't healthy.
Well,
they're running around doing this like on their last leg.
I know. So what do we do? The high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes. I mean, you guys are young, so you don't want that to be your future, right?
But for us, I think all right here I see you guys all look pretty fit. I'm probably like the heaviest one out of all of us. And
No, I hide it well.
Yes, but like essentially what I'm getting at is that what I'm noticing in our particular like all my friends that are like approaching 30 or a little bit over 30, they're very aware about health and like
doing better,
eating better, and more like eating the right foods. Like we're so aware of that because a lot of our parents are plagued with those illnesses.
Exactly.
You know, like the cancers, both sides of my family, as I said. So I know I have to be a little more aware of my oil intake and, my positivity, my stress levels.
Sure.
All those things are important. So I feel like we were more paying attention to our parents. As they
So are you doing something now? You guys doing something now to
I drink
address
water
that?
constantly. Yeah, I drink water all the time. Eat better.
Okay.
Eat better. Eat vegetables, fruit.
Yeah, I don't have no soda or anything in my fridge. I think
I don't like
soda. Drink
juice.
soda once a month. Soda is that's a birthday celebration with alcohol.
Alcohol,
and even alcohol intake. Like when I was in I'm in a fraternity.
Okay.
When I was in college, I used to drink a lot. I would drink anybody under the table. I was smoking anybody under the table back in college. But at this point in my life, I'm cutting down on all of them things because it's like. It makes you slower now. Back in college, you didn't feel nothing.
Nah.
You drank, you got up the next day. Yeah. You drinking until 3 in the morning, and you pop up at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, ready for school the next day. With no drive. Now it's like
snooze alarm.
Man, you drink, you go to sleep at 11 o'clock. And that's the thing. Like we have bedtimes now. 10 o'clock, I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling a little sluggish from drinking, and now I go to sleep at 1 o'clock. I gotta fight to get up at 5 to get ready for work, and then I'm struggling in the whole day. I could feel the alcohol in my head. I'm like, should have did that last night. But then I gotta fake it, make it in front of the kids and pretend like ain't nothing going on.
You know what I feel like coming from a chef's perspective, that in the black community we usually see it's 9 times out of 10 we see healthy food as not attractive and not gonna taste good and anything like that.
That's how my nieces look at it now.
And I feel like I was thankfully able to be exposed. I say that thankfully because it taught me stuff that I take with me forever. That I was able to work in vegetarian and vegan kitchens and then open a concept and saw what went into that and where they got the information from and the nutritional values and the research I was given in. Then I'm like, oh, okay, so vegetables are good. Then you're eating more, you're making these salads and it goes to fresh pressed juices and smoothies and looking for certain vitamins and what your body really needs.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna sit here and act like I was healthy Joe my whole life, but I feel like my perception changed because I want to live longer.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Longevity is
everything.
Absolutely.
The thing I asked you is, you said the people are avoidant for vegetables just because they don't taste great.
Right.
Also, sometimes more expensive. And
exactly.
That conversation we had.
Organic food,
Just trying to afford living here in New York.
I mean, shoot, it can go from your
C-town. It's $1 sandwich.
It falls on accessibility 100% too. Think about this is the perfect example, but it's a different community, right? Where I lived out in Yonkers, right? This is I had made a job transition from working as a chef to being a franchise manager, and I worked for Fresh & Co., which is a really quick, casual salad, soup, sandwich type of concept that they have in the city. They put one in Yonkers, and this is Northeast Yonkers. And I'm saying with the majority of the people out there being Italian or working in the city, and I say that at the time because every other little strip you walk past is an Italian restaurant. Pizza this, pizzeria this, trattoria that. And they're not really looking for that. Because if anything, they can go and make their own salad. And this guy expected to open up this business and see so much volume.
Yeah.
And it was very much so a turnoff for the community because they weren't looking for that. And I feel like the food that we had there, regardless of, a lot of the stuff that we had was like organic this, chopped salads, smoothies, fresh pressed juices, gluten-free this, 100% cacao, whatever that. And we had all these beautiful and actually really good things. They were just like not interested in certain things. So I'll just come in, I'll just get a Caesar salad. A Caesar salad is not healthy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not healthy,
Right.
It's kind of like what's provided for a community and what piques people's interest. And my thing is like piquing interest and like the same thing, it falls on the optics. If I can make you the most healthiest dish you ever had, or like some bean or some type of vegetable you never had before, but it looks good, that's the optics. All you just got to do is try it now. You know what I mean? It might change something with you.
So to Cameron's point about it being everything expensive. We're
Right.
in New York, right?
Yeah.
Food, housing, etc. So you're a chef. How can I afford to buy healthy food? Where do I go? What can I do?
Get the seeds.
What's that?
Get the seeds, like the old.
See, that's true too, but not everybody's gonna have room to.
Not everybody gonna want to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My
But
thing
if
is,
you don't want to spend the money,
yeah, that's true too. So
see, but I only know older people really be into having a
100%.
green thumb. Like, oh yeah, I'm about to get a tomato bush going on. Or something.
right. It's weird though because it definitely evolves around your area and what's accessible to you. Number one.
Okay.
Try to stay away from a lot of like the major grocery stores. Maybe focus on something that's like a farmer's market or like something a little bit smaller because 9 times out of 10 you can trust where their produce is coming from.
Right.
It's very different because areas are going to change that market price of what they put everything out on their shelves at. For the same bag of lettuce in Manhattan is not going to be the same bag of lettuce in Hackensack, New Jersey. You know what I mean? Maybe same brand, but it might be like $1.50 difference. It falls onto that area, it falls onto different things. My suggestion is, and I'll always say that, is definitely find something local, find a farmer's market somewhere that you know where it's coming from, and then take the extra care to clean your vegetables. Take extra care of the things that you get when you're at home. And 9 times out of 10, you're better off cooking from home than you are going anywhere else.
Well, one last question. What were your feelings about Obama's presidency?
It's mixed. You want to say something?
The thing I always think of anytime Tomato brings up Obama, do you guys remember when he got inaugurated and everything, like when he won?
Yes.
The very first time.
Yeah, because for me, it was 2008, right? So,
Yeah.
I don't even know how old I was, but yeah, it was like
8th grade for me, so probably 5th or 4th for you.
yeah. So yeah.
8th grade for you?
Yeah.
I was a sophomore in college.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest one here.
I was only probably in like
Oh,
9th grade.
I'm 35.
I'm 31.
31? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I was only
27.
27 and
31.
31, okay.
I'll be 32 next year.
Yeah.
yeah.
2008 in college?
I was my sophomore in school, and the crazy thing is, right after that happened, I remember me and my roommate were watching the inauguration, or not the inauguration. No, it wasn't the inauguration. It was after the election. We were watching the election in my dorm room, and that year, Young Jeezy came out with that song, "My President Is Black, My Lambo's Blue." So as soon as I remember, I called my mother. I called my mother, and she was like, "Popping champagne." She's like, "Obama did it, baby!" And we were hyped. And then I'm blasting that song out my dorm room, and I had a really heavy sound system. I remember this white girl, and first she wasn't even fully white. She was like half Mexican or whatever. She lived on my floor, and she heard the music coming around, and she came into my dorm room. She said, "I left the door," but she said, "I don't even know why you're excited. He's not even fully black." I'm just like, like why just there was just such a negative thing with that too. But then what I did see was there was so much community in my dorm, the black kids were all like, "Oh, we did it. We've never seen anything like that." You know what I mean? And I feel like there was a lot of good that came from it. I feel like my only opinions about Obama's presidency definitely falls on the military.
What do you mean?
So one of my roommates, his brother was on active duty during Obama's year in office, and just the constant having to keep going back and forth out to Afghanistan and all that, not really needing to be home. And I mean, I've had conversations with him. I won't talk about that here, but there was just a lot of things that it just, when you fold into, nobody knows what it's like to be a president. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows what it's like to call in airstrikes, to do stuff like that. And just the type of stuff that he witnessed was just wow, that's, there was a couple of things I took a step back from, just where my views are with the military. But at the end of the day, I feel like the biggest impact for me was just seeing somebody that looked like me in office. You know what I mean? Like it could happen. You know.
Is that where you were going with?
Yeah, it was just that big sense of like community celebration.
Right,
It's like that's
Yeah,
like
it
the
was a big
first
celebration.
big event that like I remember. Like personally, it was like, oh, I remember like where I was and who I was with and like whatever it was saying. Because like you brought up the Million Man March, and that's before I was born.
Sure.
So like I know about it.
Right.
I can list some history facts, but
Right.
it only means
You
so
wasn't a
much
part
to
of
me.
it,
Yeah.
Right, right.
And so anytime somebody mentions Obama, I always get that picture in my head. It's like, oh, I remember this celebration for that. But
We
You
can
said you had
do it.
mixed. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're saying?
No, I was just saying, what was his slogan? We can do it. Yes, we can.
Yes, we
we
Yes,
can.
we can.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Now you say you had mixed opinions about his presidency.
Yeah, it was a lot because of that. Like I learned a lot of the darker sides. You know, like with the like because they called him the drone president. You know?
Is that right?
Yeah, the drone president. He did the most drone strikes of all the presidents.
Okay.
So it's like where he's very diplomatic. I love that. Unfortunately, that isn't really the kind of voice he led. Like I feel like he could have done a lot more for black folks. First off,
People say that. Now
But-
explain that to me. What did
Now,
what did
so
somebody wanted
if
to
you
do?
look at during his presidency, the
Mhm.
communities he looked out most for was LGBTQ and the immigrants.
Mm.
Now I'm from a family of immigrants, so I enjoyed that. You know, and I was working in the law office while he did that. So DACA, we got mad people through on DACA, got
Okay.
mad kids on there.
Okay.
Honestly, when Trump came in, it kind of messed things up because now like that literally added a year to every single immigration filing. Like everything took a year more. So if you wanted to just renew your green card, that usually could have went 8 months to a year, and you're good. Now it's 2 years, 3 years. You got to wait. It was crazy. So I saw like massive differences that came from the Obama to Trump, but then there was a few things that he should have did that he didn't do, like fill those judges. That was my number one thing. I'm like in every presidential, like I'm always thinking about the law background behind what they're supposed to do. So if you like as a president, you appoint judges.
Now is that hindsight?
Nah,
But the reason I asked the question is because I think
opening seats. Like how do I know? How do we?
no,
figure this
because
out?
what happens is that is, I say, is it hindsight? Because now we're kind of looking back at all the presidents before Trump and trying to compare and seeing who we like, who we didn't, and why Trump is so bad or something like that. But the point I'm making is that folks are now looking back to see how Trump got here.
Yeah.
And also looking to see he's appointed this judge and that judge, and what they're saying is that the prior presidents, meaning Biden and if you want Obama, didn't focus enough on appointing judges to the federal level.
Yeah.
And so and then somebody's making an analysis. They're just making an analysis, and that's why I asked if it's hindsight, because people are looking at that now.
No, that's my thing. I've been
This is you-
preaching that.
you've been
I've been
preaching that since-
and I've been trying to understand why hasn't anyone really looked at that? Because I'm like, this is a presidential power that no one can really stand on you and say
Right.
anything about.
Right.
This is one of the few things you can actually do.
Right.
And what people don't understand is that the way how law affects America is you can't change it until something happens.
Right.
And then it gets put before the judge, and then
Right.
we decide, all right, we're going to amend that, make some adjustment to how we
Now,
deal
are you
with the
saying
situation.
that you would have expected Obama to appoint more black judges to the federal
Not
level,
even just
or
black
just
judges.
the right judges?
Just the right judges and fill those spaces, because when he stepped out, leaving 136 for Trump
yeah.
to fill, that was scary for me. I was
Yeah.
like, Jesus! Now all of our movements.
But they're not Trump to
Make it
fill,
go, not
because
back.
Biden comes between
Yeah.
Obama and Trump. So
Yeah.
it was up to Biden to fill those.
Are you gonna
positions.
Well,
call
it was-
the Biden administration,
No,
Obama
no,
administration
no,
the same
guys,
thing?
hold on, guys. No,
Trump
it was Trump.
first. Yeah,
Trump was after
Trump
Obama.
was before.
Yeah,
Biden.
it's Trump. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Trump comes in after
After
Obama.
Obama.
So
So
you're-
it's
so
Obama,
you're
Trump,
saying- you're
Biden,
saying-
Trump.
You're
Yeah.
saying
that Obama left 136,
Yeah,
and then Trump comes in
And
and he
fills
fills
them
them all,
yeah.
and then he leaves, and then Biden comes in, and what, Biden doesn't fill any?
So here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Biden probably only had about 25. If that. I'm not even sure how much Biden had, but I know it wasn't 136. which is like I don't know how, like, for me,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a shift in the ethical movements of our country.
Okay.
Because
Right.
the judges often hold that ethical that ground, like they stand on that pedestal.
Okay.
So it's like any decision they make holds through until someone comes in and then something happens,
Yeah,
and we
right.
decide, all right, we got to repeal what this judge said.
Right.
So if you put people in there that are overtly racist
Mhm.
or prejudiced,
Mhm.
nepotist in any way, like you're gonna have a situation. And Trump literally that's his thing. That's his like his number one MO. He's like, yo, I want people to look like me. Everybody gotta look like me. So oh, you're right wing. Oh, heavy on the right wing, heavy on the like not just Republican, but heavy on the right wing mentality, on the super tradition, super conservative mentality. We putting you in. So he just filled it with all conservative judges. Where it's like to me, I think you need a mix.
Yeah,
You don't just need conservative.
Not
you don't
one
just
judge
need
is gonna think the
the new
same
ones.
way.
Yeah, you need both.
Right.
And the conservative keeps the good traditions of the country, and then the new ones they can alter the old traditions, the things that don't work.
Mhm.
So we'll have like a more rich society.
Yeah.
But that's something.
So that was the only issue you had with Obama.
Yeah, it was
in terms
that.
of doing,
it was
not you're saying that doing more for black people. So you're saying that
Yeah.
has a long-term impact
yes,
for
a long term
us.
for us.
Not
exactly.
that you wanted him to go and hand out jobs or something.
No,
like that.
no.
I think
'cause
that a
honestly,
lot
I
of
think he
people
did
were-
well in that respect. I think he actually did jobs were up during his time. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that Trump claims,
Especially the
like
second term.
what people don't know is
The
that when a
economy.
president does anything, it
Yes.
takes about 4 or
Oh,
5 years to
absolutely.
actually sit. So everything Obama did, the whole debt coming down,
Yes.
like that's not Trump. None of that is Trump. The explosion of the market, that's not Trump either.
Nope.
Like the only thing I would say Trump probably did in terms of the market was say different stocks and say different things.
Uh-huh.
And if you bought that stock or bought that thing, you made money. I followed everything he said. I was like, oh, where?
He was taking
Oh,
tips.
what? No, I was taking them tips. He's on his
Like
own.
every
Royal
time he's on the
Caribbean.
news, I
I'm like,
gotta
how is
read
Royal
it.
Caribbean gonna survive, man? We in COVID. I'm like, you know what? Let me buy some shares of Royal Caribbean. Flip them real quick. I'm like, yo, this is crazy.
Yo.
I'm like, this man literally.
I
I
can
watched.
picture you watching the
Bro.
State of the Union. Like, oh, I watched.
Yeah, what's going on, there, bro?
All right.
My sister was so, yo, we were so on it, y'all. We were so on it. We made so much money. Like I made a killing during his time. So I was like, yo, honestly, this type of presidency it's scary. It's impulsive, but at the same time, there are places where we can take our we can take our little freckles.
Okay.
But
What'd you say?
ultimately, scary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, ultimately it's scary though because we know his mentality is not about unity and it's not about doing things right. So with that being said, it's like every decision, everything that he does that's long term, it's long term hurt. So it's like I don't really, and I feel like even with Kamala Harris,
Yeah.
I feel like Obama should have endorsed her right away. There was a massive delay there. I don't know if you guys realize that he didn't endorse Kamala
Yeah,
right
he
away.
didn't.
He couldn't.
Why couldn't he?
You have to make sure there's no one else in a Democratic line willing to run. He didn't get that to once it was clear no one else was running but Kamala, then he endorsed her.
Wait.
He has to wait because he's the apart from Biden, he's the head of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I gotta put something out there now.
Yeah, go ahead.
But Kamala Harris is the only Democratic candidate to ever run and go unopposed and never have any.
I know, but that's it. He had to wait till she was unopposed. He had to wait till there was no.
So they made that decision. But
Yes.
they did it really quick. They announced it right away.
And
that
then
she
he-
was gonna take over. From
And he
Biden
endorsed
run.
her. No, she just that whole taking over. Yes, but you didn't know if there were
Until
other.
the convention, right?
Say again.
They didn't announce it like officially unopposed until
To
the
the
convention.
DNC.
No, before that.
Oh, was it?
Before, yeah. Once
Yeah,
it was
they
clear
announced
that
it,
there was no Democrat that's going to raise his head or hand and say, I'm going to run against Kamala, then he can endorse her. You have to wait. There's a protocol.
Oh,
You have to
so,
wait because
yeah.
otherwise.
kind of fast though when you think about it. But
I mean, 'cause the time
think it was
to-
delayed.
yeah.
I think it was very
How many
delayed.
days?
No. It was. There's a process.
Okay,
Like everything in politics, there's a
So-
process.
So now this is interesting because now
Yeah.
this speaks to the ignorance of our community.
That's
now, me not knowing that,
Right.
and me seeing this delay,
Yes.
I'm like, what is going on, Obama?
And that's-
and a lot of other people saying the
Perfect.
same thing, which
Right.
had me like, oh man. Now if
Right.
I known this before,
Right. It was not a
I
delay.
could have corrected some
Right.
folks,
Because imagine, let's say, I don't know, John Doe was running against Kamala, and Obama comes out and endorses Kamala. You still got another Democrat. The Democrats have to be united behind one candidate. He can't just go and ignore this other person because he's like I said, apart from Biden, he's the head of the Democratic Party. So you got
Let's
to.
endorse the winner.
Yeah.
But
Let
you
the
know what?
fight happen, and then he can endorse.
I say that with like people like myself that like during the time of Kamala getting to be the number one candidate, like after I think it was like after the DNC that Obama had endorsed her, like nothing beforehand.
Mhm.
It to me it happened so quick because this a week ago, like Biden was on the air and it was like, oh, he was unfit to be here, and then you're not paying attention, but you're paying attention, and then this thing's coming by. It's like, oh, Biden can't stand in office. He's having mental issues or whatever. However they were painting it, whether it was Fox or whatever. Then it goes from Kamala being a number one candidate. But the crazy thing about it is that you're right, and this is where I'm getting the information from Renee saying that like she had nobody else, so it wasn't as dragged out as it usually is with debate on top of debate on top of debate. It was just, Kamala, you want to do this? Is there anybody else? And I mean, I don't know what's up with the Democratic Party that there was only one candidate. You know, I'm not in those offices. You know what I'm saying? But you just the way that it happened so quick. That's why I was just like, something's kind of funny here. But then everything has a protocol, like you said. So it's like, if that's what happened, okay, then it starts to make sense. You know what I'm saying?
The bottom line is that there was no, she didn't have enough time.
Right.
Kamala didn't have enough time, so it was condensed. Otherwise, if there's more time, you get more candidates. You get more people to choose from. Whether she wins the race at the end, fine. But at least you have other people to consider. Once it's condensed, then just a race to the finish line, and that's what it was. So, and even Trump complained about that. How dare you, put somebody else in at the last minute?
There was nobody on the Republican side either, too. So it was just like, what's going on?
Yes. But at least the Republicans had a primary.
Yeah.
You know. So that was it. So listen, we have this. I've enjoyed this conversation tremendously. I don't know about you guys.
It was good. It was good.
But listen, I do want to thank all of you for coming out and having this conversation. And I'm very serious about the year reunion because I'm sure the audience wants to see where you are a year from now, what you're doing, and what new words of advice you have. You may be in a different age group, but by the time we get to you.
Oh wow. Laying it on it thick. That's it. Hey, call me up, man. I'm already one. That don't even matter. You know,
That's it. So listen, I want to thank you guys for watching. It's been great having you here. Great having my guest here. And stay tuned for another episode of Four Brothers Here.